things you own end up owning you.
What's going on, cutie pies? Welcome back to the show. My guest today is Matt Blackburn. Matt is the founder and host of My Life Radio, a podcast which I often listen to. Matt has a great variety of awesome guests on there, so I highly recommend it. On this podcast, we talk a lot about his move to his new home and how he deals with everything from installing new lights to EMF and what you can do about it in your own home. I love chatting with Matt because besides knowing a lot of health stuff, he's also had a lot of experience in the field instead of just sitting back and reading studies and stuff. We chat about everything from his thoughts and why he's not into supplementing vitamin D, to air filters, to cigars and tequila. I learned a bunch of stuff on this one and had a good time, and hope you enjoy the chat.
3 or 4 months, and
all right,
I got my first.
Don't give it all. Don't give it all out then. Well, listen. Welcome back to the podcast, brother. Thanks for coming on again. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
You too, Leo. Yeah, it's always fun.
It's been a while, and yeah, man, you were just about to tell us, and I was going to ask you. That was going to be my first thing I wanted to ask you about. I mean, you know, it's been a while, and what have you been up to, dude? Looks like you're in a new spot. You got a whole new setup, new towels over there. Got everything going.
Yeah, still in North Idaho, and moved up here to the Homestead version 2.0 with my fiance, and we've been having fun with a small herd of goats. We have 2 does and a buck. Have 4 hens and a rooster, 2 cats, and 2 beehives.
You got everything, brother. No dogs? No dogs? Not yet? I'm not a dog guy.
Not yet. I like them. I think maybe kids first, you know, just because they're a lot of responsibility. And,
oh, yeah. Well, it's like a little mini kid, right? All right, ladies. So you've heard it here first. He's engaged now, so you can stop listening. I'll see you guys at the next podcast. Well, congrats on that, brother. Congrats.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
So are you up there in Owen Benjamin country up there? Are you closer? Are you farther?
Yeah, I think he's only about an hour away. He's really close to me. And yeah, it's funny. A lot of people of like mind moved up here. Like you're pro-gun, just kind of grounded people. I mean, they're not crazy pro-gun, but like pro-gun and then homesteading.
Yeah.
You know, just like sustainable way of life, safe way of life. Some people say this is like the last free place in the country. I think people are flooding to like Idaho and Montana.
Yeah. Yep. And I have a bunch of new friends. I mean, dude, as far as I'm like one homeless guy taking a shit on my street away from bailing out of here. I mean, I'm that close too. But why do you think, why specifically Montana and Idaho? I mean, besides them being gorgeous and the air being unbelievably fresh and the mountains and I mean, all that great stuff. But I mean, why those 2 spots? Because there's also like, I don't know, Wyoming, I guess. There's Colorado. I mean, you don't want to go to Denver, but like, you know what I'm saying? Those areas up there. Why specifically those 2 states, you think?
Yeah, I think you hit the air thing. Clean air, which is kind of like a commodity at this point. Abundant water, relatively clean. Usually when you buy property up here, comes with a well, generally, or there's a nearby spring. So you have air, you have water, not much fruit up here besides berries. Like we're about to enter huckleberry season. We already harvested a little bit, but
man, I haven't had those since I was in Russia. Those are it's delicious, right? I love those things, man.
I like them better than blueberries.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're way better. Blueberries are it became such like a fake fucking fruit, right? It's just this like blue thing, and it's like, especially those big ones. I mean, they taste so awful to me. I don't know. I can't deal with it. Because you know where I'm from? I'm from the very east side of Russia. Remember when Sarah Palin was saying, I can see Russia from here. I mean, you really can from Alaska, right? Because you know it's like maybe 2 to 3 kilometers apart. And so I'm from that little peninsula called Kamchatka there. And there's lots of berries that grow up there, and all kinds of berries that, I mean, I don't even remember the names of them, but there's lots of different ones out there. And, you know, way more fun and tasty than standard Whole Foods bought blueberries.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's something that I think everyone should have access to is like foraging. And supposedly even in the desert, you could still forage, like dates and certain things.
For sure.
In the forest here, we're fortunate because we have like morel season, which are really expensive. They'll sell a little jar at the health food store for like $20. It's like super light. And
I have to admit, I bought them before, bro. Probably for more, I think. I was going to say like 25, $30.
Yeah, because the window for morels is really small. And we actually had some crop up like maybe like a 2-minute walk from the house. They like kind of open areas. But yeah, there's a whole thing with foraging up here, and I missed the pine pollen. I was excited to. My car kept getting covered and stuff, but I just get the tinctures and the powder, and it's easier. And we had so much going on that I didn't have time to get out there with a bag.
But talking about pollen, didn't you start owning some bees? You got a little beehive going, or what's going on?
Yep. Yeah, and I was all excited about the flow hive, which I think a lot of people are, and then. I'm kind of like so people might have seen like Facebook ads for it or Instagram ads. It's a new style hive where you turn a spigot and then it's pretty much honey on tap. So you might have seen it flow out of the tubes directly into the jar from the hive, but it's kind of gimmicky. I mean, I think it could work and it's okay if you're in like Australia or Hawaii, but anywhere else, like here, we get pretty heavy snow, especially we're elevation at our homestead here, like 2,000 feet, and it's like a microclimate. And this winter we'll probably get dumped on with snow. And so I think going traditional makes more sense. And so we actually, a couple weeks ago, transferred them from that advanced hive where the honey frames are basically, it's these really, they're like $30 a frame. And you crank it, and you could loosen or tighten it. And what it does is it actually separates the comb,
so the honey some of the honey drip out a little bit, and then and then you're saying you can kind of just put it back in and let it and stop if you don't want too much, right? Is that kind of the deal?
Right. Yeah, it's like a little tool you twist, and it's on an angle like 3 degrees or something, so it just flows down the channels. But the traditional way to do it is with the frame extractor, and they have like a hand crank or an electric. We just got the two.
If you can do it anyway, you're fucking golden, dude. You're way ahead of us. I mean, that's one thing I miss about like that's the great thing about Russia and Ukraine being so like kind of still somewhat wild countries, you know what I'm saying? Like, because my grandma, that was like a thing that we did, I don't know, every week, every 2 weeks. She was a big honey person, and which you just, you can drive out in the farm, dude. You can find somebody that has just honey on tap. They got giant, massive jars of it just sitting there ready to go. And here it's like this whole thing where like I got to go to the farmer's market. And the farmer guy is kind of an asshole. He just kind of, you kind of get that vibe if he just wants to sell it to you. He's saying it's unpasteurized, and they're using all the good lingo, but like they're still cooking it, and they're still not telling you. Oh, yeah, and they're still filtering it, but they're using the other words that don't describe these, catchy words, catchphrases, things, and then you're just getting not as a great quality product as you would if you have your own fucking hive going.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and being in the city too, like you have to deal with more EMFs. People spraying Roundup and pesticides and on their lawns, and all that affects the bees. And so here there's like forest land around us, and just the bees just have miles of unsprayed, flowers to pick from. So that's awesome. Really cool.
So taking a step back, so like when you moved into a new house, obviously, right? And so what are what are the things that you go through, like a checklist? Do you have like a checklist or certain things that this is good, this is good? What do you go through when you're moving into a new place?
Yeah, as far as health goes and like making the environment more conducive to health, the dirty electricity was one of the biggest ones. I interviewed Dave Stetzer on my podcast a couple of years ago, and he's from Wisconsin, and he kind of discovered with another guy dirty electricity, that form of EMF, by looking at high voltage power lines and cattle, like especially dairy cows, underneath those power lines, and their milk production dropped, was lower living under the power lines. And same thing with egg production in chickens. And you think the field wouldn't go that far, it's like putting it's
Yeah,
like the
right.
distance, but when you look up these power lines, I mean, or towers or whatever, it's like the field extends pretty far. But I think what people don't think about is, they'll think about turning off their Wi-Fi at night and stuff like that. But the wiring in your walls actually produces dirty electricity. And you can get a meter. It's like $100. And it's also called electromagnetic interference, EMI, or high voltage transients. There's all these different words, but it's kind of lumped into this dirty electricity name. So the difference from the old house is we were on the grid with a generator. So we had like a generator backup because we'd lose power for 3 days in the winter. And then up here, it's fully off grid. So all we have is solar and a propane run generator. So a huge 1,000-gallon propane tank and a generator.
Oh, man.
That's our only backup. So
you're ready to go.
Yeah. And so, I thought being fully off grid, that I think people have this conception that going, if you go solar, then you'll have no EMFs. But in a lot of cases, it's higher. And there's a lot of context involved. If you have the panels in your roof, I don't think that's ideal. We have pole mount system, so it's separated from the house, which I really like.
So you don't think the what's his name, Elon's idea of having the fucking roof being all solar panels is not the best idea there, huh? That's interesting.
Well, you could probably mitigate it. I actually, after an hour and a half conversation with a really smart tech guy up here, I befriended a lot of superstars up here, like good plumber, electricians, like handyman. And that's the cool thing about up here is you just find people that are masters of their craft. And
there's not too many people and they know what the fuck they're doing. Unlike here, right? You call a plumber over here, they'll usually break it worse for you instead of fixing something. It's just like, that's another thing about living in a city. Yeah, man, I'm this close. Oh my god.
Yeah, so we actually got Starlink last week, and I was just like, you know what? Elon's a creepy character. Neuralink, he's pro carbon tax. Kind of like
naming
some people
his son
think
XY, whatever the fuck that name is. Come on, he's a weird guy. I mean, like you can have your opinions on it, but you cannot disagree that he's a weird fucking dude. Okay, he's a weird, creepy dude.
I think he could be artificial intelligence. That's like super conspiracy, but I think
to say the least, right?
Yeah.
To say the least. Oh man.
But yeah, Starlink's really interesting because a lot of people in Idaho and Montana have been getting it. It's made for rural people that their satellite internet is snail speeds, like I used to have at the old house. And so Starlink is unique because the dish will actually tilt on its own to track the nearest satellite, and the satellites are lower, so they're what's called in low Earth orbit, and so they're I think only 300 feet above the Earth or something. Wow. Super low. And I think Elon wants to launch like 42,000, and there's a huge controversy with that, with
the 5G
stargazing
thing and all that stuff.
And that too, yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it too, but do you think it's inevitable, man? What do you think? Like seriously, because I mean, you and I probably won't be there yet. We'll probably live who knows? Maybe we'll live to 200, right? But I'm thinking like 500 years ahead. Like what the fuck's gonna be going on here? I don't know. You think it's inevitable? Just everything is going to be interconnected like that via some satellite up in the air?
I think so. Yeah. I just saw the movie Total Recall for the first time last week.
For the first time? Matt! Hold on. The OG, the Schwarzenegger one, or the fucking shitty remake with Colin Farrell? Okay. Oh, dude. It's the first time? Matt, that's a classic. Oh, get out of here, man. So what'd you think?
It was good, like, I think, Hollywood kind of shows, like, what the future is going to be. And some people say, like when I used to research conspiracy stuff and whistleblowers, they're like, you know, everything that you've seen in movies already exists, and they're just like showing you what's happened, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know about Mars colonies and stuff, but
well, they're thinking about it. I don't know, man. You know, with sci-fi, it's like, yeah, if there was here's my conspiracy theory with sci-fi movies. I've never heard anybody say this. I think the good ones, the ones that you're like, oh my God, this is exactly how it happened. That's why there are so few good sci-fi movies. I think most of them are just shit, and there's nothing really interesting there. And then the good one, there's a few good ones like Total Recall. Like, have you seen a movie called Moon? It's a really good movie.
No.
Moon, yeah, highly recommend it. You know, it's sort of a take on. I'm not gonna ruin it for you. Just watch the movie. It's pretty good sci-fi movie. There's a few out there that are good and predictable, but then most of them are just like. Also, another funny thing is like, right? Isn't it? Why is it always that the Earth is fucked? Everybody's dying. Everything is terrible here, right? And we got to get out of this place. What is that? Why? Name me. I challenge somebody. Comment it in the comments. I don't know if you're watching this. Tell me one movie where it's like, oh, everything is great, and we're still on Earth, and we figure it out, right? Like we bond together. Like there's not one.
It's almost like programming to get us to want to leave. Yeah, like Elysium. I actually enjoyed that movie. Besides, like
is that Matt Damon? Is that yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. But that's again, right? We're getting the fuck out of here. You're going out of here. And then you know the Chris Nolan one. What's his name? Interstellar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. We make it in the end, but again, we're not on Earth. We're like in another colony up in space. Like fuck Earth, fuck this place. Oh my God, I don't know. It kind of drives me nuts, right?
Yeah, the new Alien ones. What was that? I can't remember the newest Alien movies.
Alien movies.
Yeah, same thing. They have colonies and space.
I'm very picky with my sci-fi because I don't want to get programmed into that more, you know, that I already am. And alien stuff, I don't know. So what do you think about all the UFO stuff that's happening recently, huh? Are you following?
I haven't. I used to follow that really closely. Yeah, now I think I just, you know, whether it's with religion or paranormal stuff, I'm just like, if it happens to me, then I'll look into it. Mm-hmm. And I've had such weird stuff happen to me my whole life, which is kind of why I'm a weirdo. But now it's just like I feel like it's too many rabbit holes to get lost down, and you don't know what kind of bias is influencing the information that you're getting. You know, like I used to read like tons of channeled books and stuff.
Yeah, I've been there, done that too, brother. It's almost funny though, right? With the UFO stuff, it's almost like now that like, I mean, there was that thing that Obama released, right? Obama was saying like, yeah, there's unidentifiable objects out there, right? And it's like, I almost feel like now that it's out there in the open, it's almost like it lost its mystique. It's almost like I feel like all the UFO guys are like, no, never mind, it's something else. Oh man.
Yeah, there was a recent documentary I told a few people about called The Cosmic Hoax, but it had a really weird like anti-white message like halfway through. It was like, whoa, why is there like this racist thing in the middle of like an ET documentary?
Oh God, everything is racist and everybody's racist. That's why, Matt. Even the aliens are racist. Oh my God, they just won't stop with that shit, will they?
Yeah.
But here's a funny thing with like racist movies and stuff. Think about it. You know, like if you make a movie that's like racist against black people, you're terrible. Mexicans, no touch. Asians, no go zone. Who is the bad guy in every fucking action movie in America? What race of people from what country?
Caucasian, Europe.
Yeah, or Russia, like 99, right? That's what I'm saying. Literally every single time. And it's funny that that's the one. Like if somebody makes a Russian joke, like, and I get it all the time. You know, like commie or like Sputnik, you know, or whatever. And it's like, it's totally fine. Nobody even like winces at it, right? But if I made the same joke about somebody from a different race, it would be like, oh my God, you know, people would hold their breath. So
yeah, the Russians were onto some really cool. I mean, that whole area. I think they pioneered like ozone treatments in Russia, and even the research on deuterium and deuterium's effect on biology.
Yeah, that started
was like
there.
Pioneered by the Russians.
They did the first big, I don't know how many gallon tank, but they did that in Russia. And you were talking about power lines tonight. You know, to this day, again, I also used to be super into it, and I just kind of fell away. I don't remember all the numbers and stuff. But to this day, there's still a limit on how strong the signal from the power lines can be in cities because of what started in like I don't know 50s, 60s. I think is when they really started doing that, and it was miles ahead of their time. So how about if you're like an average person living in the city? Like you can't get out. You got your fucking Netflix job or whatever, and you can't live out in Idaho. What can you do? So you were saying like $100 meter. This you can buy like on Amazon or where can you get one of those meters?
I'm actually interviewing the owner of this website, electrahealth.com. It's kind of like a less EMF. Those are my two favorite sites, and their products kind of overlap a little bit. Okay. I think Electra Health has better prices on a lot of stuff, and they sell EMF blocking clothing. They sell a ton of meters, which I love the meters because then you could actually quantify and measure what you're doing. But going back to your question, I think measuring it is helpful. Even borrowing a meter from your friend, like it's called an RF meter, radio frequency meter, and the one that I like is $300 to $400, and it comes with an antenna on top, and it's like a green antenna, and that's a pretty accurate meter for one type of EMF, which is one of the worst radio frequency. That'd come from like your cell tower and stuff. So
does that cover your Wi-Fi and phone stuff, or what else? Yeah,
it does. Yep. Yeah. And I started years ago with like $100 tri-field meter, and that's just a little needle, and that's not as good as a digital readout. It's not as accurate.
Those are the ones that just sort of, as you get closer to it, they just kind of go up and they go down. But like you said, there's no real hold on it, right?
Yeah, it's more like a toy. I mean, you get close to the fridge and you'll see it max out, or your cell phone, it's like, oh, wow, this fields are real. It's like, okay. But then when you go higher, like, okay, I want to actually see the numbers. And yeah, as far as mitigation strategies, I keep my finger on the pulse of the biohacking community because it's just fascinating. It's kind of a train wreck at times, as you see.
But they have a lot of stuff out, and they talk about a lot of stuff. Yeah, I do too, brother. I make fun of them, but I don't take it too seriously either.
Yeah, and I think there's some practical good stuff that comes out of it, maybe 5 or 10% of things. And what I've been kind of focusing on lately, especially with Elon satellites, because my friend Ken on the phone the other day, I'm asking him about getting Starlink, and he's pretty much saying it doesn't matter whether you get it or not, because other people are going to get it. And even if you don't get it, or you don't, or your friend doesn't get it, the satellites will still be up there. So people have this idea that, if you get Starlink, the dish is going to turn your house into a magnet for the EMFs. No, they're already beaming down. Yeah. It's not like a laser beam directed at your house. That's not how it works. That's kind of
what people say, right? That are super anti all that stuff. Because people are very touchy about that, right? Yeah. I have one friend that's like, no go, you just can't. But that's the one thing that they would say, right? It's like, well, if you tell them I turn off my Wi-Fi router at night to sleep better, they'll say, well, what about all the other Wi-Fi routers around you? So I don't know. How do you take that? How do you respond to those kind of people?
Well, yeah, it's the closest assault. So it's really the router in your home, even if you're in a multi-story apartment complex. Yeah. With someone literally on the other wall, still the router in your space, because it's called the inverse square law, where the distance drops off like double each time you double the distance from the source of the EMF. That's why whenever I do a phone call, I never hold it to my head. I mean, not saying maybe once a year, twice a year, but it's usually I'll hit speaker and then hold it up. Even if I'm in a store, I don't care if people hear my conversation, because it's better for your hand to get radiated than your skull, brain.
Or I just have the pods, not the not pods, just regular headphones, not those God forbid things. How much have you ever measured those? Have you like the Bluetooth, headphones, any of the brands? How much EMF are they putting out into your head?
I want to. It's funny. The guys that set up our inverters and our batteries and our solar panels, they're all super tech, guys, and a lot of them had the AirPods in. A lot of these solar tech guys tend to just be that way. They don't think EMFs are a real issue, and they're drinking Diet Coke and Red Bulls and
Of
stuff,
course.
you know.
Of course.
But the next time I have one over here, I don't think they'll mind. I'll take my meter to them, and maybe I'll give them a call and then show. It's my understanding with those AirPods, how they work is it's shooting the signal across your brain,
Right.
like straight through, like they're communicating with each
that's what
other.
I've heard and read too. Yeah, that it's like literally if your head was, if it was somehow possible to shoot, it was shooting out, right? But it's not. It's literally going like that, right? That's what I've heard. I don't know, but that's also what I've heard too and read.
It makes sense because they have to connect with each other because
Right.
they stand.
Because as soon as you take one out too, it notices it. So I don't know, man. Those things. I mean, I see people daily, right? In in the gyms and everywhere. Just got them in there radiating. I don't know.
Yeah, I think brain tumors and everyone's already sick. It's just whenever I go out, everyone's spouse is dealing with the disease and everyone's dealing with it. It's just crazy how everyone's sick. And I think all these little seemingly small things add up. Like I think EMFs are a big deal. Like I think bigger than GMOs, bigger than pesticides,
Wow.
maybe bigger than heavy metals because it's just a constant exposure. It's just
Yeah,
and
because anywhere you go, right, city or not, like you said, even you're out there, you still got to have your Starlink because you got to be connected. I mean, we get it, but like, yeah, but it's also such an easy fixable thing, right? Like just don't use AirPods, use regular headphones with a cable thing, and it's like, okay, good. I mean, try not to keep your phone by your balls as you're doing it too, but
yeah, and different things like coffee, I think, is an EMF protector. I mean, I don't know. Ray says coffee contains magnesium. I don't know if it's a sufficient enough amount to make any difference whatsoever, but it does have that iron inhibition effect. And whenever people talk about EMFs, they're all about the V and that turns you into an antenna, but it's more so the iron overload. And so, beef liver is an EMF protection or just organ meats. Whole food vitamin C is an EMF protector because the tyrosinase enzyme that helps you regulate your iron. So it makes you really making yourself less of an antenna to it is the best protection. And then I take it a step further and wear EMF blocking silver embedded clothing.
Wow. Is that one of those shirts?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
very cool.
inside of it's actually silver. Yeah.
Oh, so hold on. Like just regular silver protects against EMF is what you're saying. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And the old tinfoil hat thing, for people to protect from mind control. It's not just a joke. It's a real thing. I mean, supposedly there's patents of how they
But that's aluminum though, right? So why did they use aluminum? Was it just any metal or I don't know?
Aluminum works a little bit. Aluminum works pretty well, and it's it's the cheapest way to do it. Silver works better from my research, and how it works is it doesn't block it. It absorbs it and then sends it across the surface. So, for example, if you wear a baseball cap, that I have like 10 now that have silver on the inside of the cap, so you don't look crazy.
Interesting. And
when the EMF hits your head and goes through the cap and hits the silver, instead of going through your head, it goes around the cap. And so that's how it shields. So it kind of disperses it throughout the material.
Yeah, because I noticed a long time ago, and this is, like a N=1 thing, but, when I would wear any of the super synthetic, I've been in the fitness and training world for a long time. And whenever I would wear one of those like super crazy spandex, I don't even know, because they have all sorts of materials that they make things out of, for working out, to dry fast, to, keep your joints tighter and warmer. Whenever I wear those things, I always just feel off. I always feel crappy. And, our one of the guys that I have heard talk about it, though he talks about a lot of other bullshit too, but Paul Chek said the same thing. And I was like, oh, me too, kind of clicked. I was like, yeah, it's exact. Because I don't know why. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I just kind of feel uncomfortable in these like spandexy weird materials. And a lot of the athletes love that because they're told that, having your joint in this like, elbow pad is going to be good for your basketball or whatever the fuck sport they're playing. But I noticed that I'm like, I just want to wear regular cotton clothes or just something really, really basic. I mean, cotton is the best, just like simple, thick, old school. And even a lot of the cottons are now like, like 90% cotton and 10% bullshit, right?
Spandex or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of my first jobs was Sports Chalet. And yeah, Under Armour was a really popular brand, all that compression
Exactly.
stuff. And
Exactly. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people use that as a biohack, like on an airplane, supposedly to help keep your circulation going,
The
to like wear
veins.
compression
Yeah.
pants. But I don't think it's really
Yeah.
necessary.
To me, it's like, again, like, why don't you set up your life in a way that you don't have these problems? Like, that you can't just sit on a plane for, I mean, sitting on a plane, of course, you feel like shit afterwards. If you're a person that pays attention to themselves, come on, you feel like shit after like a 10-hour flight. But to me, it's like, just have your life in order that you don't have to have a sleeve on your fucking ankle, right? To have your blood coming up. Because I've met those people. I guess if you're really old, right, that'd be okay. Like if you're wearing one of those things.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree though. Natural clothing. I like wool. Cotton's really good. I actually, one of my shirts I wear all winter is a French material called Emana, EMANA, and it's encoded with bios like ceramics, basically like nanoceramics. And what it does is there's clinical studies to show that it reflects infrared light back into your body. Like 93% of the infrared light you're emitting, it puts back in. So it basically keeps you warm.
Interesting.
Using your own heat. And it also improves it's supposed to decrease wrinkles and decrease acne and improves your skin health overall and stuff.
And how do you spell that? How do you remember? What is the name?
Yeah. Emana, EMANA.
Okay, pretty
EmanaFiber.com is the site. And there's
cool.
Yeah, there's different brands that sell it. I first learned about it through Gemba Red, just to give them a shout out. He sells them, and they're all white shirts, but you might not like them because they're somewhat tight.
I like loose shit. Yeah, it's true. Or you want to wear the big muscles, Interesting. Yes, and then you mentioned Gemba Red. So yeah, I got a little red light thing. How about you? You got your own setup from Gemba Red?
Yeah, and I have a few different, because people have sent me over the years just free lights. I don't get much free devices as much as people think. I pay for most of my stuff, but red light here and there, and I think red light therapy is more than a biohack. It's because it's literally souping up your engines, your mitochondria, and it's acting on your water in your body to make it more gel-like, like more exclusion zone water. So I think it allows you to hold a charge better. I think the effects are just so broad acting. I think it's improving everything.
Yeah.
Like whenever someone comes at me with an issue, I'm like, shine red light on it because it can't hurt.
Yeah. At least it's mimicking somewhat you being outside. That's what I kind of take away from it the most. And again, in today's world, especially what's happening right now, like everybody's indoors working 10, 12 hours a day, right? And you're like not going out. And even besides that, people just sometimes spend literally all day indoors. And, and it's just like, I mean, I guess if setting up one of those, red light panels next to you is the best you can do, then do that. And I mean, going outside is probably pretty good for you too.
Right. Well, we had fires up here. There was I think it was 140 acres in Washington is burning up, and it's been smoky up here for like a week.
Oh man.
Fortunately, I haven't seen any birds die. Like last year when we had fires, we saw bats falling out of the sky.
Oh, seriously? Oh my God. Jesus. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen bats falling out of the sky, but I've seen like, you're walking down the street and just LA is just filled with ash, man. Like the one, I think that was a year or two ago, it was just a terrible one. And you're even you go to the beach, you're by the ocean, you're still smelling this and inhaling it. Yeah, man, I got to get out of here. It's bad.
Yeah, you just got to keep buying stuff. Like you need air filter. We actually got rid of the air filter because it's the constant draws being off grid that are an issue. And air filters, they can take a significant amount of power. And I just figure being up here, we're not near a freeway.
Yeah, but
you're
pretty
still
far
way
away better than most people. I mean,
right.
For sure, right? Yeah. So you're not I haven't messed around too much with like indoor air filters and all that stuff, like you said, just because it's taken a lot of power from you, huh?
Yeah, at the last house I used Air Oasis, and I discovered them at the Bulletproof Conference. It was like
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6 years ago, and I think that was the best thing there.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked it because it actually um, had HEPA filtration, but it also shot out two particles
Mm-hmm.
that neutralize VOCs and even clean surfaces of bacteria and viruses if you're worried about that.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think the best thing for people to do, especially if they're in a somewhat clean area, somewhat away from a big city, is just open your window. Even if you're in a city, just crack the window just because the VOCs will be able to vent out
That's what I
even just
do.
once a day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
biohack right there. There we go. Not an expensive one. Because some of those filters, I've had my ups and downs with them too. Like I've bought some really expensive ones and kind of felt, I don't know, kind of felt more crappy. It felt like it was shooting out air, but it felt like I was almost in a, I don't know, like an air conditioned car or something, where it didn't quite feel natural, whatever that term. But you know what I'm saying? It just didn't feel like normal air. It felt like I was getting constantly just AC'd on, and I don't like that either.
Yeah, I think a good strategy where I started was like the Goodwill or like a store like that,
Mm-hmm.
and or even eBay or a thrift store or a garage sale. Look for a Honeywell. Honeywell is a pretty basic brand, but they make just a very basic HEPA filter, which is just a carbon material wrapped
Mm.
around, and it's very simple. It's just a suction through the bottom and then or through the top, and then it blows out the bottom, and it's just running it through that carbon material. And so it's like usually $10. If you buy it
Basic, but it's
used,
just not putting anything weird in there either. You're saying it's just filtering it through the carbon. Hmm.
yeah, just all the dead skin cells floating around in the
Yeah,
air,
and
all the
carpet
dust.
and all the shitty material that the buildings are made out of. Yeah. Oh man, that's the yeah. So what other things did you do to your house, man? Like what else have you been upgrading it with?
the The lighting was a big one. It's so amazing when you move to a cabin. It's like you think it's like super healthy and wow, these people must be in perfect health. But a lot of the owners of cabins that sell them are falling apart,
Yep.
and that's usually why they're moving. And when we got in here, it's like I was looking at all the lighting, and they're just like bright white. It actually said on the bulb like daylight. I was
Oh
like,
no, the worst ones, right? Yeah. Yeah, the worst ones.
yeah. So I've had a journey the last year, thanks to smart friends like Andrew Latour and others that write really great blogs on light. Um, I used to think that incandescent bulbs were the best,
Hmm.
like red and red and orange bulbs.
Right, which is like with the chicken that is so popular in the like repeat community, right? The chicken heating lamps, right, that are made from they're incandescent, right?
Yeah, but these are like like generally 25 watts, I think.
Mm.
Just the normal screw-in bulbs.
Okay, so just a smaller wattage, I
Mhm.
guess. Hmm.
Right. Yeah, and I switched to LEDs, and especially being off grid, they're like 3 watts now instead of 25, which really adds up with having lights on.
Of course.
And my friend actually measured with like different meters, LEDs versus um, like regular bulbs, and he found certain brands of LEDs actually have less flicker because there's all these issues with lighting. It's the flicker rate.
Right.
If that's off, then that'll tire your brain, stress you out.
Hmm.
Um, there's the intensity. There's uh, the actual EMFs coming off of it, the electric fields. There's so many aspects. So this brand Sunlight, Sunlite, is what I use. And
Okay.
what's funny is they're really hard to get. Like you can't go to Home Depot and buy these. It's
No,
just
of
they're all
course.
crappy.
Yeah.
They're almost like illegal. And so it's lightbulbs.com is the website that I've been
Oh yeah,
using.
I bought some incandescent from there before.
Mhm.
But okay, so
Mhm.
you don't think they're as bad as, because I mean, for the typical biohacker, right? It's like LEDs is like no, don't do it.
Yeah, unless it's a red light therapy device, right, which uses LEDs. But
LEDs.
yeah.
Brilliant. And
But yeah,
it has biohacker TM on it, right?
Yeah, there's nuances with everything, and with lighting, with artificial lighting, it gets so complicated. Like I said, there's flicker, there's EMFs, there's intensity, there's color temperature. There's so many things to it. Um, and so, yeah, just to simplify it, red, orange, and yellow, like bug lights, like that's what you would get in a fire, red, orange, and yellow. And then whenever you go above that, there's barely any green and blue in firelight. And so, or white light. So it's really what you want to avoid. And you want to stay with the first part of the rainbow there, red, orange, yellow. And yeah, that was a huge thing for me to switching those out, because even coming up here, I'll unplug my Starlink at night, turn off the Wi-Fi at night. And I don't want to have to carry a headlight or a flashlight around.
Right.
I want to just flip the switch.
Yeah, you still want to have some normalcy in your house, right? So what's mostly around your place? You're saying it's those LED lights that you're saying?
Yeah, and then there's I'm still trying to find a replacement for the kind of the shop lights, because I have those in my where the batteries are for the solar in our little washer and dryer room. There's just the shop lights, and then the garage. But I don't know if I'll replace those. I'll probably just wear blue light blocking glasses or something if I'm walking through there, or red lens glasses. But that's the main thing: the dirty electricity, the light.
Have you ever gotten into mold stuff, which is so popular? And I've also had my ups and downs with that. Like I've done, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I've done tests, and it's like you slowly realize that, first of all, there's mold everywhere all the fucking time, right? There's, then you start thinking like, okay, well, there's worse molds, there's better molds. The common, like the average guy that does mold testing for you, that works for like the company, that works for the government, like it's always negative. It's always like, nah, you're good. There's just a little bit of mold. And then you have on the other side those people that are just like, right, there's black mold everywhere. It gave me this disease and it gave me that. And I don't know. I do know one friend of mine whose mother started getting symptoms of like Alzheimer's because of black mold, and they did get it tested through the state government and or the local government, and it was real. So it's definitely a thing. But I've also been in places where I was like, there's definitely mold here, and then I'll spend $200-$300 on some stupid test, and it says nothing. so I don't know. So how far have you gone down the mold rabbit hole?
Yeah, at the old house, I'm pretty sure there was with an older house, you could pretty much assume there's been water damage at some point. If it's over like 50 years old. I did buy an ERMI test, which was recommended by a mold expert I had on my podcast, and that's supposedly the best one, ERMI. And like you said, it's ERMI. Like $300-$400.
Okay.
And
I haven't heard of that one. Yeah, but I've done like Great White Lakes or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about? Maybe
with the gelatin company.
No, oh no, you're right. No, but it's something like that. You're right. It's something like that. I might even have a box here, but anyway.
Sprinkle gelatin on the mold.
It kills it, bro. The glycine takes it over. Yeah, man. So ERMI. So how do you spell that again?
ERMI.
Okay.
And yeah, there's a bunch of companies that sell it. I never did it. I guess you take like a little duster kind of thing. You like collect it in a bag and you send it to them. My kind of view on mold is that, yes, if your health is compromised, it's going to be an issue. But people forget that EMFs and Wi-Fi will actually exacerbate, like feed the mold and make it grow faster. So I think if you kind of clean up your EMF environment, and that's Wi-Fi, it's dirty electricity, all the different aspects you can do, then you'll have less mold. I just got into ozone therapy about like my first cold plasma ozone machine, because I heard about it for years, and I'm like, we've had some spills here, and our whole house water filtration room, I had like 2 devastating spills after we moved in, and I saw like some white fuzz coming up on the ground, and I'm like, wow, that was quick. So the cool thing about having an ozone machine is you could just put it in a room, pump it out, and close up the room, and it just kills it like crazy.
Interesting. So
Especially
you
if
don't
it's
have
good.
the one that you can put on your face, like a face mask kind of thing. It's just a machine you're saying that just goes throughout your room.
Well, there's different attachments to it. So this is like O3 Purity. My friend Charles Barber sells it, resells it, and they actually have a bunch of different attachments. They have a mouth one that I haven't used yet because ozone actually does regenerate the gums. Like it's
Right.
very
And
useful.
I've heard a lot of guys using it. Yeah, I've never tried it myself, but
Mhm.
I've seen one in person through a friend, but I never tried it. I just anyway.
Yeah, because usually people do like the butterfly needle. I've never done that. The IV ozone, which I think is
Yeah, fuck
really
that. I'd rather do
sketchy.
the face thing first. I mean, that's like, come on, like, hold on a second.
Well, the only thing about breathing is even when I ozonate, like I'll ozonate my water, my drinking water,
Hmm.
and if I open the lid and I breathe if I breathe it in, I start coughing. So
Mm,
it's actually really irritating to the lungs.
mm.
I think you can breathe ozone, but you have to first bubble it through like something in between, like a chamber in between you and the unit, and
Interesting.
then. But usually, yeah, people put it in their ears. You put it like in your eyes, in the mouth. Like I said, people do rectal ozone,
Of
which
course,
is
people love the rectal shit, right?
well, it's like 90. It's almost similar to IV, so it's like 95% as close to putting a needle in you, which is kind of cool because it'll kill SIBO or any kind of gut infections or even endotoxin. There's studies on it lowering endotoxin.
Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of us have like chronic low grade infections, and everyone's going to these biohacking treatments first. But I think if you get the foundation down, which is all the stuff that we talk about, then you add in things if you're not seeing results over the years, then
Mhm.
that's where these therapies really work. But I think people jump into like hyperbaric or
Right.
ozone or all
Right.
these things the first thing they do.
Yeah, and they're still like, or even just eating shitty food still, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever. Or
Yeah.
like saying they're eating good food, but like not really defining it, not thinking about it. Yeah. So, and how much has that changed for you, man? Like since you moved to the new place, is it still kind of the same, similar diet ish wise? You have your goats and chickens and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Been eating more ice cream in the heat.
Yeah, it's the best way to cool off.
Yeah, Double Rainbow is still my favorite brand, San Francisco brand, and I'll sprinkle reishi syrup on it. So it's like fermented barley syrup with reishi spores and
Mm,
reishi stem and
I haven't
cracked
tried
cell.
that. Where do you get that
It,
reishi syrup? I mean, I tried reishi. I never tried reishi syrup. Mm.
it's good. My friend Brandon at Shen Blossom makes it, and a little jar is I think it's like $80, but it lasts forever because you only use. I think I use like a little tiny spoon, so it's
Hmm.
like a
Just a
quarter
little
of a
bit at a time.
teaspoon or something. It's really bitter, but I think it adds a nice little balance to the vanilla ice cream. So,
That's a good
uh,
one. Well,
yeah,
that was one of the questions that I had. I asked some people to send me in some questions, and how the fuck you stay so lean, Matt? I mean, you're eating ice cream, steak, milk. How you stay so lean? Do you think that's like if you're being honest about it, do you think it's more of just the way your makeup? Call it genetics or not, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But do you think you're just kind of have a tendency to be a lean guy?
I think so. Yeah, and I don't like beer. I don't. I've only drank beer a few times in my life, so I think like hops, and uh, I think estrogen makes us fat. It's not the female hormone; it's the stress hormone. And I think I put a lot of focus on minimizing estrogen, and I think that helps a lot
Mhm.
because you see beer drinkers, and they usually have a gut, and it's
Or man
uh,
boobs. Yep.
or man, yeah.
Seriously, right?
Yeah, so I've been utilizing things over the years like nettle root, and I'm a fan of cigars. I said that before, and even tequila here and there, which is an aromatase inhibitor.
Hmm. Let's talk about that. Hold on, hold on. People are gonna go fucking crazy, Matt. You just brought up smoking cigars and drinking tequila. I was just in Vegas actually for my birthday recently, and
Oh,
I
cool.
had a couple of cigs. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this brand called Plasencia. They're from Nicaragua. It's they used to have the only cigar world is a very complicated and nuanced world too. By
Yeah.
the way, because there's no such thing as like organic or unorganic anymore. So it's kind of
Mhm.
hard to figure out what the fuck is going on. But after digging down and getting a lot of research, through a lot of research, I found that Plasencia, this was like a few years ago, that they were the only organic cigar certified brand, although now that has changed because they don't have that certification anymore. So it's kind of hard to find. So, but I just kind of stuck to that brand ever since. They're grown in Nicaragua, and you know, and because I've smoked some of the, you know, cheap cigars that you can buy, or even like, you know, the, I don't know, $40-$50 ones, but they're just something kind of tastes synthetic about them, you know, artificial. So, but yeah, tell us about tobacco, man.
I gotta try those. Yeah, I found it. Plasencia Reserva.
Plasencia. Yeah, very good. You can still find boxes of the organic one if you search around at some sellers that are still selling it, like they still have them, but that's no longer a thing. Like I said, I don't know exactly why, because they're like, it's like a whole different industry from cigarettes, by the way, you know, and they want nothing to do with each other. Right. It's like a really, I don't know all the details, but it's interesting.
Well, it's funny. When I first got into tobacco, I was a cannabis delivery driver, and this was when it was like quasi legal in California, and so it wasn't recreational, and so it was still kind of underground and sneaking around somewhat. We filled out the forms and it was legitimate, but I was working with people that were just doing dabs like 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Jesus Christ. That's how you know you got a real fucking addict right there. And of course they're not they'll tell you they're not, right? It's just, you know, you don't get it, the medicine. Because I've had that too. I know this like barista guy that I go to get coffee with, and I was, you know, talking to him. Oh, so what kind of buds are you into? You know, like, how do you smoke it? Are you like a joint guy? Are you a vaporizer guy? You know, he's like, buds. He's like, oh, I don't do that. And I'm just, why you don't do buds? And he's like, well, I don't get high from them. Okay, so he dabs because he doesn't get high from smoking fucking the real thing, which is right. It's like a little bud that grows on the plant, right? And can you imagine how that's just too much? You know, I think if you're at that level, you got to reassess and take a break.
Yeah, and it's like wax. Like I used to see them process it into the wax, and it's like that sticky material they have on the paper. It's just like, wow, this is so far removed from the plant, right?
Yes, and they have to add stuff to it to make it more sticky and whatnot. And I don't even know that, but all the details in that. But it's also, I know that it's, yeah, like you said, it's so far gone from that original era of like, right, the 60s, 70s. And like, it's just, you know, medicine, have a little smoke, you get a little high. Like, it's not even close to being the same thing, you know. That's why when people are like, will argue with you about it, right? And it's always the pot smokers that are like, I'm not addicted, right? They'll write you like a Bible about why they're not addicted. But yeah, man, it's go ahead.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I think anything could be addictive. Like for me, I just forget or get bored, or like, you know, with tequila or cigars, it's like I can go through phases. Even like when I used to drink wine, I don't drink wine anymore, where it's like several nights in a row, but then I just stop and I just like need a reset. And I know some people don't have that. Like they just keep going and it gets worse and worse.
Yeah. I totally agree though with you. You could be addicted, you know, to cheeseburgers, right? Like they say, we could be addicted to everything, but it's just, to say marijuana is not addictive, I think it's kind of like disingenuous. You know, you're not being honest about this thing.
Yeah, and I think it's knowing why you're using it. Like back to tobacco, like when I was at the dispensary, I was it was one of my health mentors actually that I smoked a cigar with for the first time, and he bought me like a Liga Privada T52, which to this day is still one of my favorite. They're like, if you buy them at a shop, they could be like $30. If you get them online, they're like,
yeah, it's like a classic $12. OG cigar. Yeah, Lita. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, he's like, oh, it's the ultimate anti-parasitic, you know, and just blood cleaner. It mimics acetylcholine in the brain. It, you know, prevents Parkinson's, and smokers have a less incidence of neurological issues. And it just goes on and on, like so many different benefits to tobacco.
Yeah. Easily found on PubMed and stuff, right? Like right. I've gone down that rabbit hole. There's lots of studies about it. I mean, I'm guessing they'll probably be censored somehow in the future, even more and more, because, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. So what else have you do? What else have you done with tobacco? Tell me.
Well, I've grown it, and I mean, I started with just rolling my, because I worked at a dispensary, I learned how to roll joints, and that was part of my job. And so I
Oh.
had the little hand roller thing. It's like the raw roller thing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I would use hemp paper, and I would buy loose leaf tobacco, and I started with American Spirit, like I think just the loose leaf American Spirit, which is pretty bad, and then I discovered. I think it was something Schwag.
Yeah, like a Swedish brand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good one. Yeah. They're big on their tobacco over there. I think it's because it's so fucking cold and depressing. They're really big on their what do you call it? You put little pouches in there, which I don't know. I'm not my thing. The little lip pouches. What do you call that thing? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, here Norwegian Swag, I think.
Oh,
Was
it's
the
Norwegian. I'm so sorry.
one.
Skull to all of you, Scandinavians. I apologize. It's so different. It's not Swedish. It's Norwegian.
Yeah, and it was a lot of work, but yeah, it was funny on my drives. I'd make the little filter, and I would smoke on my
Wow.
drives. And I was, I wouldn't chain smoke, but I was getting into it for a little bit. And I'm like, wow, I feel amazing. And for my research, nicotine's even protective with the brain against EMFs. I think it's just so broad-reaching, the beneficial effects of tobacco. We still don't even understand all the benefits to it. But then I just moved to cigars exclusively at some point, just because it was too much work to roll my own little homemade cigarettes.
So you're growing. You have tobacco right now on your property, growing.
Soon, yeah.
That's the plan? All right.
It was years ago. I actually grew it out. So this is when I was super into pyramids and stuff. I actually grew it in a copper-plated pyramid outdoors in San Diego.
Wow, that's very cool, dude. Did you put your water down there to charge your water up and stuff too? Yeah?
I think I did. I mean, I was getting pretty out there because, tobacco needs higher nitrogen.
Yeah.
And so I think I watered it with my watered down urine at some point. I diluted it 50, because urine's really high in nitrogen.
Yeah, I've heard that too. But you did it, you son of a bitch. You actually did it.
And I ended up making tobacco paste. It's called Ambil. I found it on some forum online. It's like a South American way to process it, Central South America, where supposedly they carry it around in the jungle around their neck, and they'll just take little bits of it while they're hunting. It improves their visual acuity and their reflexes and their night vision and stuff. And I just basically dried the leaves, the tobacco leaves. It was very rough. I didn't age them properly or anything, but it still worked. After they dried out, I put them on the stove with a little bit of filtered water, squeezed some lemon, added some cacao paste, some honey at the very end, some shilajit. It was basically 4 or 5 ingredients, but the honey was the sweetener. The shilajit was the zing. The cacao was flavor. And it felt like smoking a cigar, but more not as jittery.
And I just put it under your lip, or you ate it actually? Or what?
I actually just let it dissolve in the mouth and ate it.
Oh, yeah, so dissolve, but eventually. Oh, wow, dude, that'll get you pretty fucking high, tobacco high. Yeah, tobacco's interesting, right? It's so demonized in our culture. But I mean, so do you think it's the whole, the additives and all the bullshit that they put in there, and probably the fake tobacco leaves is probably sprayed with all kinds of shit? Do you think it's that gives people the problems? And because most people are just smoking cigarettes, right? They're not going out of their way to find a good quality cigar or loose leaf tobacco.
Well, I wonder if they're using harsh fertilizers, because when I was growing tobacco, growing it a few times now at the old place, we grew it and the leaves were huge. Like 10 feet,
and they're
huge,
really big and open. Yeah, it's a actually cool looking plant, right? Yeah.
And they're carnivorous. I used to keep carnivorous plants years ago, and tobacco plants are carnivorous. People don't know that. The leaves are sticky, and when a plant lands on it, it'll get stuck, and it'll kind of get drunk on the nicotine, and then it'll just die. And the tobacco will actually absorb it. It'll grab the nutrients from the insect, and it'll just leave its exoskeleton on the leaf.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I don't think you need to spray them, but
well, anything to make a profit, though, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And the nicotine thing, because I've read this study. I remember reading it. I don't know, maybe years ago, where because you would think it's the nicotine, right? You think you're smoking cigar and that's what or cigarettes and that's what you're addicted to. But they did these studies with people, that give them the same exact amount of nicotine and tell them to stop smoking, right? And none of them could fucking hold back. All of them wanted to smoke a cigarette, and people think it's something about the anal fixation on it, right? That you're sucking on, and I think there's some truth to that too. But I think, like you said, I think there's also just other stuff in there that people aren't thinking about. And it's so much deeper than just this nicotine. Because otherwise everybody who uses the patch would get off, if they wanted to get off of cigarettes, right? But usually they don't.
Yeah, I bought a book. I like really expensive books on Amazon that are like out of print.
I have that obsession too, bro. Like old ones too, right? That are like $120. Yeah.
There's this one on like the physical and chemical properties of tobacco, and it was like the size of my head.
Whoa.
And it just goes through all the molecules, and it's like thousands and thousands. I think it's like over 10,000 compounds in tobacco easily. And it has niacinamide, it has magnesium, it has like potassium, it has like crazy stuff you wouldn't think of. I think it has like copper and iron. And the big issue people don't think about is the radiation with tobacco, because tobacco soaks up radiation pretty well. And so that's why you want it to be aged ideally at least 5 years, because that's usually that's the half-life of a lot of radioactive isotopes. So you can lessen the radiation that you're inhaling.
Yeah, I used to buy from Canada, of all places, this loose tobacco that was just tobacco, and I'd have one of those volcano vaporizers, I'm talking about the German OG shit. And it was really good stuff. And I think it was aged maybe 3 years, but that's an interesting thing. I've never paid attention too much. I always know they're aged. Well, is there like a minimum or not really, right? There's just whatever. But most good quality cigars are aged a good time, right? A good amount of time.
I think the minimum is like 3 years or something. But yeah, good quality. We at the old house, actually in the shed, we still hung it on the old style strings.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I should go bring that up here, and they're probably ready to be processed. I want to try to make that paste again, because it's been like 5 years since I made it.
All right, man. We'll be looking out for that Instagram post.
New Vitalife product. It'll be like $500 a jar.
Yeah, man. I mean, one of my favorite documentaries, this is like a random documentary I found about, I think it's called The Cameraman in Cuba, or The Cuba and the Cameraman. It's this guy that goes back and forth between Cuba. He has some sort of like, I don't know, pass to go back and forth and just film stuff. But there's a bunch of characters he meets, but there's these two characters that he meets, these two brothers that live out, in the fucking middle of nowhere out there in Cuba, and they're farmers. And they have a big bull, and he does all the work, and then, they got everything. I think they have some cows too, but they're daily smoking a little cigars, and he keeps going back. It's like a documentary that takes place over like maybe 20 years. Anyway, both of them are in their 95, 96, still smoking their cigars, puffing away every day, because it's a big part of the culture in Cuba. Yeah. And so I don't know if I buy the whole fucking, all right, it's gonna kill you really fast thing. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, everything in moderation, including moderation, right, as they say. But yeah.
Well, and I think tobacco is similar to white sugar, like you talk about. I really liked what you said. I think it was like a month ago in one of your stories or posts on Instagram. You were like, white sugar is just energy without nutrition. It's just fuel without nutrition. Yeah. And similar to how white sugar can fit into a healthy lifestyle, if you're eating oysters and liver occasionally, and eggs and milk and cheese and red meat, and you have nutrients coming in. Same with tobacco, your body can handle, and I think it's actually a benefit. But it's really, the Chick-fil-A, McDonald's eater, Red Bull drinking, they smoke cigarettes.
It's like those stupid studies when they compare like vegetarians to meat eaters, and it's like, what kind of meat eaters are we talking about, and what kind of vegetarians are we talking about? Because as soon as you identify as a vegetarian, you're already a person who cares about their health, right? You're gonna go out of your way to find better quality ingredients, and you're gonna prepare your food probably, and you're gonna, you're not gonna be an asshole that's a vegetarian that eats a McDonald's salads every day, right? And then the meat eaters are the ones that are just like eating whatever meats, right? So it's, same thing with cigarettes, I think, when they're saying like, oh, are you a cigarette smoker? Like, the average cigarette smoker, yes, is probably a very, very unhealthy, poor, just terrible fucking person in a terrible state of health, right? So, like
wearing
you
their
said,
AirPods and
they're, they hate their jobs and they're just driving around smoking cigs all day. Yeah, it's like, of course, if you're comparing that dude to somebody that doesn't smoke cigarettes, yeah, probably the non-cigarette smoker is healthier. But
and I think your antioxidant status really matters too, and I've been reading studies on like how vitamin C, not ascorbic acid, but whole food, and vitamin E really protect, especially vitamin E for smokers is incredible. And what's funny is I've had comments like vitamin E plus smoking is more hazardous. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like vitamin E is a chain breaking antioxidant, and it's going to stop that chain reaction of oxidative stress, especially caused by carbon monoxide or smoke. So, it's I think especially if someone's just eating fruit simply, I don't know how many smokers eat fruit every day. Like that would be a huge
like we said, most of them are not. They're just eating. They really are eating McDonald's for breakfast and some other fast food for lunch, and maybe like a microwaved Trader Joe's meal for dinner. Oh man,
right.
I mean that's like I had like a client, like his wife went away on a long business trip, and I'm like, so what are you eating? And it's like, Trader Joe's microwavable meals. And it's not a joke, it's, to me, it's almost like, nah, you're fucking with me. Like, you're not really eating that shit, are you? And it's like, yeah, that's what people eat. Like, you forget, when you go outside of your, people who sort of somewhat, like, you and I were both not super obsessive about it either, right? But even in our circle, when you go out of that circle, it's like, you forget that people literally eat, McDonald's and just microwavable meals with all kinds of added. I mean, the ingredient list is like literally that big, right? And it's just like, oh man, you forget that, that's what those chain smoker people are eating also.
It's a good point. Yeah, I usually default, like in my lazy days last year, I was defaulting to like tons of raw milk and like cheese quesadillas, homemade.
Yeah. Do you upgrade your tortillas? Do you get the nixtamalized tortillas or just go regular corn tortillas, whatever you find?
I think it was like flour, but I think it had sunflower oil in it. Those are the best ones we can get, unless we make it at home. And put some sour cream and some harissa sauce on it, the Moroccan red pepper.
I love it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about Southern California, right? I mean, I do love the real Mexican food, and I don't mean like authentic. I just mean like real normal stuff with no bullshit added into it. That's good stuff. But there's lots of companies. Can't remember the name of it. I'll tell it to you later, maybe. But there's a few companies that are making tortillas that are like corn tortillas you can order online, and they come like frozen and they're still fresh, and it's pretty good. So
I used to do the siete, what is it, cassava flour, but I stopped that at the same time I stopped stevia and monk fruit. I'm like, that's all in the same category.
It sort of is though, isn't it? It sort of is. Ah, man. Cassava is a delicate thing. What's the other name for it? Tapioca, right? They call it tapioca flour. Yeah. I've cooked with it before. I don't know how. Here's the thing. It doesn't have much flavor. Like it's like a kind of a bland substance, which can hold some stuff. And I get it. But I don't know. It is kind of popular in Brazil though. They do like their tapioca. Like they make little wraps with eggs inside and stuff. But I don't know. Wheat flour, old school, right? And corn, I guess, huh?
Yeah, this winter, I was thinking the other day, I'll probably get more into sauerkraut. Like I used to make it, and I just got lazy and got into other stuff. But interviewing Morley Robbins on my podcast, he's all about iron overload, and that's the root cause of disease, and we have to regulate it, and copper does that. And whole food C is an excellent source of copper. And I just got to thinking, I'm like, okay, besides pills up here, like my vitamin C pills and, like Camu Camu and Amla and stuff, which are great. Like, what's my sustainable source if I can't get those pills anymore, being in North Idaho? And he was saying sauerkraut, like 1 cup contains an insane amount of vitamin C, like hundreds of milligrams.
It's pretty high up there. I've heard that before too, because it's just what do you call it? Lettuce, right? Or cabbage? It's
Cabbage, yeah.
cabbage,
Yeah.
big part of the Russian diet. So
Yeah.
yeah, dude, I can eat it for days. I have, sometimes I crave it, sometimes I don't. So it's not really, but yeah, that's what they say too in Russia. Also, it's like a big source of. Well, we stew it with butter and stuff, and cook it for a while. And you can also just make a dish out of it. You can just throw some meat in there and make like a cabbage and meat dish. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But sauerkraut is where you get the vitamin C, right? Because it's fermenting and it takes some time to do it.
Yeah, and even supposedly, according to Adam Bergstrom, potatoes are an excellent source of C, which I'm a little, supposedly cooking destroys the vitamin C, which I've heard, but I don't know. I guess it does, because you bake potatoes for like an hour. I'm like, how is there any vitamin C left? But supposedly there is.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna actually in the next month here. This month we're getting delivered a geodesic dome greenhouse, a 33-footer. So we're gonna actually dig down around the perimeter, like 3 feet in the ground with our backhoe tractor, and
it's awesome,
pretty much put fruit trees in there, and it's the little triangles on the dome are on hydraulics, so in the heat
awesome,
they open,
brother.
when they close. And
wow, what kind of fruits what kind of fruit trees are you gonna put in there?
I love like every fruit, and I really miss from California, citrus, oranges, lemons, limes a little bit, but even peaches. I love plums. I don't know if we could do mangoes and stuff up here. Maybe. I really love cherimoya, so probably put one of those in there.
Fuck, dude, you said cherimoya.
My parents in San Diego actually have a tree, and it's like barely
Really?
hanging on, like it doesn't produce.
Oh,
And I think we're gonna take a clipping and bring it up here and start growing it.
It's a tough
here.
fucker to grow, from what I've heard. That's why and there's only like one little part of the year that they come out, and then they're done. And we just passed it. I mean, I was posting about it on Instagram almost every day when cherimoyas were around, because they're not common, but you can find them at like Mexican stores here and stuff. So I love them. It's a good fucking fruit, isn't it?
It has like a ice cream type of flavor. It's like a creamy. It's like such a unique.
Yeah.
I guess they say it's like a mix between like an apple and a pear, right? If you had to describe
and it's
it.
like custardy, like a good custardy, and it has that like exotic kind of taste to it. You got to try it if you haven't tried a cherimoya. Oh man, so good.
Yeah, and it's a little intimidating with the dome because you're supposed to have a pond in there. I think like some people do 1,000 gallons up to 3,000 gallons, which I think is a little overkill. But you could put koi in there, or like people literally fish on a home. Like they'll put fish they can eat.
That'll be dope. Have a little koi pond up there in Idaho, dude. You got to be the only guy up there with that, though, right? There can't be another koi pond up there in Idaho.
Yeah, it acts as like a heat sink, so it maintains the temperature. But yeah, you can go really crazy with it, but. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's just project after project. Right now, we're building a chicken coop and our sensory deprivation float room in the old garage. That's EMF shielded, so that's like
the garages or what the.
Well, I pretty much destroyed the. We like took out the garage door, and we're going to just make it a wall, and it's we made basically a room in a room because your traditional sensory deprivation float pod is just, it's like almost like a spaceship oval thing. You close the lid on you. This one that I'm upgrading to, it wasn't that much more expensive. It's just a pool. So the entire, almost think of like a stand-up shower with the glass doors.
So there's nothing that you close over top of you? Okay. So you need like a room that's, you're saying, is enclosed, I guess.
Yeah. So we did like a drop ceiling. So I think it's like 7 foot or something. It's pretty short. And for the last month, we've been like foam insulating, framing it, put up tile. We had to level the ground.
Wow.
And it's going to be interesting being off grid and doing this. Fortunately, there's the hydronic floor heat. So I'm hoping that'll maintain the temperature. But there's a heater in the saltwater pool and then a heater on top. So the whole room is like the float pod, basically.
So it's going to be just a room dedicated to the float tank, yeah?
Right.
Damn,
I
You're going full force at it. I love it.
I mean, I would get rid of all my other biohacking stuff. If I just had to choose one thing, it would be the float the floating because
Really?
I just think
Wow.
social media and just, I think you get it, but just it's the stimulus. Every once in a while, you have to get out and go on a jog or go outside, right, and do something and just kind of just look around, look at the sky, interact with people.
Yeah.
But to even go further and just have zero stimulation
Yeah.
for even an hour.
But you'll go on a jog and some asshole's playing his Bluetooth, and then you go to the gym to try to do a workout, try to have some you time. There's television screens everywhere, right? And you go anywhere. Yeah, man, it's tough to get away. I think in a way, it's also like making people being so scared. I think that's part of the reason people are so scared of everything these days. People are like, they're like, to the average person that was born and raised in like Los Angeles or New York, if you put them out there where you are in Idaho by themselves, they would freak the fuck out, dude. Right? They would freak the fuck out because they've never been alone. They don't know how to do anything, And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not their fault in a way, but I think, like you said, having some literal, real you and the environment time is really important for health.
Yeah, I noticed it's impossible for me to get stressed out. Like I could chain drink coffee and not feel my cortisol go up if I'm floating consistently.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had my friend teach me how to chainsaw the other day because my first chainsaw, it's funny, a couple years ago was the electric Ryobi because I'm, kind of doomsday prepper somewhat. And I'm like, what if we can't get gas kind of idea. But those electric chainsaws really suck. They're only for like trimming and just kind of playing around.
They can't cut shit. Yeah.
So I got I went to the Stihl dealership. They're, Stihl and John Deere kind of thing. And I think it's one of the best chainsaws. And I actually took down my first 3 trees last week.
Wow.
And I was drenched in sweat because you wear.
Oh yeah, dude, you get fucking covered. Yeah, man. I've done that. I've done that with a real axe with my uncle back in the day, dude. You fucking die. You talk about working out, right? Like, try going down doing some yard work like that and cutting down a tree. Oh man.
Yeah, and even I got my first weed whacker, and just by our lake, I was just weed whacking. That thing's even heavy, and it's vibrating. The vibration of these machines tires you out alone, let alone holding them because they're heavy and you have to like be steady with them. And so that's been nice because I feel like, like Danny Roddy, I think said he's like pretty sedentary. And I feel like I've gone through phases of that, but living out, when you live outside of the city, you can't be sedentary unless you're just hiring people to do everything around you, which we do that, but to build our new chicken coop and stuff and build new things. But yeah, when it comes to basic stuff, I think it's really good to know, like processing your own firewood is so fulfilling. Chopping it,
man. And just the smell of like fresh chopped firewood. Oh God, dude. And then a fresh fire. How about that? Yeah, man. I wanted to talk to you about that. Like, I'm getting to this point of like, you're talking about, earlier on, we said something about taking it to the extreme. Because you can do that with everything, right? You can take it to the extreme with the healthy diet that, maybe we talk about and recommend to people. I made a post about it on my Instagram, because like some of the most savage dudes that I know that work out, right? They eat Snicker bars. They wake up random times. They don't have any set schedule. I mean, they work a job. They don't, periodize their training. They don't do any fancy techniques. They just, but they can do all the fancy shit. If you ask them to do something fancy, they'll be able to do it. And my point is that, like, they're not really like obsessive about all this stuff, and those are some of the most like strongest guys that I know. And then some of the other guys that are like, they have their, the 5 a.m. like bulletproof coffee, and they have, all those biohacks, and they're just very average people, So it just got me thinking about diet. I mean, I'm getting to a point where I'm almost like, yeah, there's like this sweet spot where like, this is good diet stuff that you should be eating. And then beyond that, you're just going to be an asshole, basically. And, like, how important do you think diet is like the thing to fix people's health? Or do you think there's other things that are involved?
Yeah, there's absolutely other things involved. And some people call it, the 5 pillars of health or whatever. I think there's multiple. But yeah, I think those types you mentioned, like the bulletproof coffee types, like the schedule types, like have to get up at the same time every day, go to sleep at the same time, like very regimented. That might work for some people, but I think it would work better if they were more flexible. It reminds me of some conversations I've had with Adam Bergstrom specifically about sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying, he's all about timing of things. And he was saying you could be in time, you could be on time, or you could be in time. And on time is like eating, bush tree root and the growth zones at the specific times. You're eating an almond between, 7 and 9 a.m. And it's like everything's really regimented. But he said if you're in time, you could break all the rules and you could still be healthy. And that's kind
So
of
just
like
kind of going with the flow. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. You're just kind of going with the way the wind blows, because the wind changes every day, right? I mean, that's fun. That's why it's funny, right? That's what the world we kind of created, right? Everything's so regimented. You got to be at this time, same time every day. But yet, like our outside nature, it's like every day is different, right? The animals you see are different. The things that grow are different, and it's kind of crazy we've gotten away from that so much, I think, right?
Yeah, I think the more you can adapt, the healthier you are, and that's been my real lesson the last 2 or 3 years. And it does come down to stress, but maybe focusing less on diet and nutrition and more on like your relationships and like eye contact and human interaction, and getting rid of toxic relationships or unhealthy relationships and building ones, having good influences in your life, people that you can look up to and that inspire you and that support you. Yeah. I think that's all more important than nutrition. And for me, like I noticed being up here, when people come over to help us out with working on the house, I'll end up outside talking with them for 30 minutes to an hour, and we'll just go on different tangents and talk about world events or talk about health. And I noticed I hadn't eaten for hours, and I feel like I had eaten because I was having these really fruitful, fulfilling conversations with people that felt just like food.
Yeah.
So
they don't feel like those fake kind of, hey, how are you, man? How was your weekend? Oh, good. How are you? Good. And it's just this robotic back and forth, right? Because hey, how are you? And like in the English language, in the American English language, it's almost like a part of hey. They're not really asking you, how are you, right? They're just saying, hey, how are you? It's kind of like, hey, good, how are you? Okay, bye. Okay, right? Like that's it. Like there's no like actual, how really the fuck are you though,
Yeah, or talking about philosophical stuff. Like I can just bring up, like I've talked about with a couple people here, how Starlink is like the new Skynet, and it's like literally Skynet from Terminator. And we go into that.
You've been on a real Arnold Schwarzenegger craze lately, bro. Total Recall, you got that one. Oh, man.
Have you seen the clip of him holding a cigar and talking about smoking cigars? It's really
I do
funny.
whatever I want. Of course, brother. It's classic. Of course. Yeah. He's a big cigar smoker.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and I have respect for him. I see him at Gold's when I used to go there, Gold's Venice, working out. This fucking guy, dude. Because imagine being Arnold. I mean, everybody knows you, and everybody around the world knows you. You're not just like an American star. You're like a fucking international star. And so he'll be doing a workout, and somebody comes up literally in the middle of his set and just, hey, can I take a picture with you? But he always finishes it, and he takes a picture, and he smiles. And I've never seen him like deny anybody. So I have respect in that sense for him, because I think it's pretty cool that he does that.
Yeah, I'd probably get annoyed at some point.
Oh yeah. I know, and some people do. Some celebrities do. You meet some that are just like, no, they don't want to hear it. But yeah, man, I'm really glad you brought up the relationship thing, because I don't know, man. I'm almost like at a point where it's like you meet the guy that has the perfect diet, and he's read all the Repeat articles, and he understands them all, and he read all the, he's done his iron testing and he's done everything. But he has like a really shitty girlfriend, and he's just not into her, and she's not into him, or whatever. They're having fights, and there's family problems.
Yeah.
Versus a person that doesn't have the perfect diet but really is enjoying life. Right. I think that person's going to be a lot more healthier, huh?
Totally. Yeah. And I think there's a phrase called emotional, there's IQ and there's also EQ, like emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people with a high IQ or supposedly have low emotional intelligence, and they're just not able to communicate on that level with people. And I think that's just as important, if not more so, than having all the, all the articles and all the health concepts memorized. That's been a good lesson for me, because just, talking through issues with your partner, and, because that's going to come up, and just talking through things, and that is just as worth it as learning about health stuff and putting that into practice, if not more so. I think and I saw it, this rise of like the tribe. And tribe and family have become synonymous terms, which I think is ridiculous, because it's different. It's like there in the health community, especially, it's turning into this thing where don't get married. You don't need to do that. Just join a tribe.
Yep.
And then everyone just sleeps with everyone else.
Yep.
And,
I was just going to say, that's where you get those Aubrey Marcus types, right? That, by the way, right, doesn't have his open relationship anymore. Has a normal fucking married relationship now. And his other guy, what's his name? Kingsbury, the ex-UFC fighter. Yeah, I don't think it works, man. I think it's a bunch of bull. I think it works for them for now because it's something different, and they think that they found the it. And then I think at the end of the day, it's going to be back to, people. At the end of the day, people return to themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, they return to the basic stuff, and it doesn't work. I've never met one fucking open relationship couple that have been together for 20 years or 30 years. I mean, if you're out there, give me a holler. I'm in. I'm just kidding.
And for me, I've been thinking about this, like what draws people to that. I think it's to that lifestyle, and I think they don't, like, especially as a man. And I've heard, like, I think you're familiar with Daniel Vitalis. He's that rewilding guy, and he was saying because men don't hunt anymore, hunt like deer and wild animals, they hunt women in bars, and that drive never leaves. And that always stuck with me. That's like one of my favorite things he's ever said, because it makes sense. It's like that purpose, like that, like if men don't have a purpose, then they're just going around bar hopping, drinking beers, and just floating through life. But
but then you cover it up by saying, oh, you got to enjoy life. It doesn't matter. It's all this spiritual bullshit, right? Which, again, like I said, I mean, look, that's a great example. Like Aubrey, right? It's like, all these fucking, psilocybin trips and LSD and all that. But look, hey, at the end of the day, you kind of want to be with that one special person, and yeah, at the same time, it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, we're all going to die. We're probably not going to die together at the same time, holding hands like in a Notebook, right? But, but you know what I mean? Like, it's still, I guess it gives it a lot more meaning, right? Than the kind of, because also, I've also haven't met people that are genuinely talking about that spiritual stuff in a genuine way, right? They're out there. I know they're out there. I've studied with some, I guess, like gurus and all that kind of stuff. They're genuine, but most of them, they're just fucking telling you the stuff that they read in some book about some guru guy, and it's just like, shut up. You're just saying it just to sound spiritual, and you're wearing the wooden beads, right? And you got the fucking tattoos and everything. So yeah.
What? Yeah, and it's funny because I came from, like, listening to Bashar and Abraham Hicks and going to psychic training, where I was trying to become like an X-Man and stuff. And it's partly successful for a little bit, but I was into like the Eastern mysticism, quote unquote, thing, the whole meditation, Yogananda stuff. And and then I think, and I've talked about this, it's interesting. It's like going from raw vegan to raw primal, or to the carnivore diet. It's like people are going from Eastern mysticism to Orthodox Christianity.
Yes.
And I think people are swinging on every level. And for me, I just think going off your experience, and I guess people call that like Gnosticism or something. You don't have to put I like putting a label on it.
They want to put a thing on the thing, right? Yes, exactly. They want to make it a thing again. And it's like, don't make it a thing. Oh, man.
But yeah, that people, like, I guess they just need their like framework or something. And for me, I've just always liked experience and, failing and then being like, okay, that maybe worked for me then. It doesn't work for me now. And this is working for me now, and it feels better, and going to do it. And I learn from that. And just keep going. And I don't
until
need,
maybe
like,
it doesn't, right? And then
yeah.
maybe at that point, maybe you'll try something else. And it's not about being, like a hoe, right? Just jumping around, right? Doing this. But like you said, it's just working and what's not working. I don't know. I treat that stuff like I treat diet, like you said. Like if it's like, hey, if the milk is working for me right now, and then at some point it's not working, like. So I'm not saying milk is shit. I'm just saying, like, right now I'm not gonna drink any milk or use it. You know what I'm saying, though, right? So yeah, I'm with you on that, brother.
I had someone comment on because I interviewed Emma Satchery the other day, or I posted that on the collagen, the casein, and gelatin, and some vegans got crazy and they're like, casein causes cancer, collagen causes cancer, and like here's the study, and it's like, it's so funny. It's like, maybe in context, maybe in someone's context of where they're at, but for most people, I don't think that's the case. I think they're protein deficient and it's helpful.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's our, I don't know, minds. We want to simplify. We want that, like you said, like that thing, this thing does this thing, done. Like I figured it out. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to another thing and I'm going to make that a thing.
Yeah.
But then, yeah.
Speaking of things, we watched a really funny deuterium video because I went on like a crazy month and a half deuterium binge, just like watching every video, every podcast, just like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And
Shit.
of course, it's all pro keto, anti-sugar, pro fasting, Wim Hof, the whole usual spiel,
Yes.
But these two guys in Venice near Erewhon made this hilarious 20-minute video where they're like holding up Aphora water and they're like, this costs like $23. And they're like,
so here's the thing about Aphora water, though. That's interesting you brought that up because I've bought that deuterium depleted water a couple years ago. This was definitely pre-pandemic, whatever. So maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And it's used to say deuterium depleted water. Have you noticed that it doesn't say that on the label anymore?
I've never bought it. Yeah. Cause they don't have it up here, but
yeah, it's like $25, but it's not on the bottle anymore. It doesn't say anything about deuterium anymore. And I don't know. I haven't researched it that well yet. Like, I don't know. Is there some sort of legal thing that you can't say that? Or is it not that anymore? It's just really expensive water now? But I don't know.
That's a good point. I want to buy it, and then because you could send in water to get tested.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised no one's done that yet. Because you could buy the new water and then send them a little vial. I think it's like Quicksilver Scientific because we actually sent in our spring water here after it went through our filter, which doesn't alter the deuterium. The filter, reverse osmosis doesn't alter it supposedly, but I'm interested to see the deuterium content of the water because supposedly North Idaho has low deuterium. Ocean water is like 155, coastal water is like 155 parts per million, and if you go inland, high elevation, supposedly it can go down to like 140-ish, which does make a difference in energy production. And I think it's a very nuanced thing. I don't think it's a make or break thing.
Yeah. I mean, no, dude, that's basic. But listen, I pulled it up. Look, there's a bottle and it just says Aphora and it says water for wellness. Of course, R, right? And then it says nano-purified, hyper-oxygenated water. Nothing about the deuterium. Why? But I know that for a fact it used to say deuterium on it, or specifically deuterium depleted, and now it doesn't say that. And I wonder what the fuck that's all about because now I'm like, you know what I mean? Because that was the whole thing. It's like deuterium depleted, but now it's just hyper oxygenated alkaline water. I'm pulling up other stuff. Yeah, it's the same thing.
If they're not saying it, it's probably not because it's a really expensive process. Because there's no facility in the U.S. That's the reason why it's so pricey. They're all in Europe. Well, Europe and I think a few other, but none in the U.S. And it's like beyond distillation. Like it's a really energy intensive process to make it.
So I don't know, man. It's interesting. What was this thing you were telling me about the guys in Erewhon? By the way, some of the most douchiest people work there, but I go there.
Well, they were making fun of like the trendiness of it, and
okay, cool.
Their conclusion was like Mountain Valley spring water is better, and I rolled my eye. I'm like, oh, hard water, tons of calcium, and look at the TDS.
That's like 2015. That's cool. Get out of here. That's funny. Yeah.
I think for cancer, because people freak out about cancer, which I think is not worth freaking out about because I think we have so many solutions now. And, it's not the Jack LaLanne green juice. It's not celery juice, It's not coffee enemas, although maybe those things have a place context. But yeah, I think deuterium depletion for cancer, there's tons of studies on it reducing tumors very quickly. And so, God forbid, if one of my family members ever came down with, like men are getting prostate cancer like every day, just like crazy.
Yeah.
Women are getting ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer. It's just like, where is it all coming from? It's like,
I mean, I don't know.
deuterium's not the cure. It's like a quick fix, and then you can get to the root of like.
Well, the idea being, anyways, right? Just you want less of it, right? It's not like it's that's the solution. It's just make it a less of a thing. So it's like, okay, so then how can I do that? And there can go a whole rabbit hole down there. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's interesting, man. So what about this other thing that's going around, that we kind of shut down everything for recently? We'll call it Ronita. Well, you had a pretty good post about some of the stuff that you would do. I just wanted to talk about that a little more. What would you do if, God forbid, if you got it or somebody else got it, or maybe it doesn't exist, or something that's similar to it, I guess. Wink, wink. I don't know.
Yeah, I take a more balanced approach. I think a lot of the raw primal people are like, it's all terrain theory, germ theory is a myth, viruses aren't real, it's all exosomes. I think that's a really extreme, it's just like the pendulum thing. It's like people are just pissed off with the grip tightening.
Yep.
And I think infections are real. I think viruses are real. I think bacteria is real.
Yeah, when you get one, you'll realize it, But at the same time, it doesn't mean that it has to be one or the other. That's the beauty of life, I think. That to me makes it, interesting. But some people don't want it that way,
Yeah, and I mean, since this whole thing's been going on 2 years or whatever, I've had people send me links, owners of companies, check this out. And I think one of the first things I heard about when this was happening was wild oregano oil. Mm-hmm. And what's really funny is like Dr. Cass that I've had on my podcast like 3 times. I think they started selling wild oregano in like the 70s or something. It was like they were like the first. And then there were a ton of copycats. And now there's like almost MLMs and greenhouse grown. And it's all this whole market for oregano oil. But this like real Mediterranean stuff, there's a few companies selling it, like the real stuff. Mm-hmm. They actually did a study on SARS-CoV-2 or its official name, or whatever, showing that it does knock it out like 99% in like 20 minutes or something, or even 10. It's like really
burns. I've used to use that shit a lot when I would feel a cold coming on, put it in your nose. Oh man, it kills everything, dude.
Yeah, and Cass had a video where that little 1 ounce bottle, he actually took a shot, because people always message me like every day.
That's hardcore.
Matt, it took more than 5 drops. Am I going to die? No. I'm like, no, as long as it's the wild stuff and not like, greenhouse grown where they jack up the carvacrol unnaturally. Mm-hmm. Kind of like altering cannabis, like GMO, mm-hmm. Like genetically modifying oregano. Mm-hmm. As long as it's the real deal, it's very safe to take, especially consistently. It's not going to harm your gut bacteria and stuff. So that's a good one. And you could snort it. I like the Sino-Orega, especially before I go to bed. Mm-hmm. I snort one in each nostril, and it burns, but it feels really good. I prefer the capsules. They make like gel, like Orega Rest capsules.
Pop it in there. Okay.
And it's like oregano, cinnamon, clove, and another spice. At a health expo years ago, I listened to Cass on stage talk about the power of spices, mm-hmm. like even garlic, like thyme. Like whenever we have a steak, it's the same thing every time. Thyme, garlic, and wild oregano. And like real wild oregano, not store bought. Ordered it from Greece. And
yeah, it's good stuff, man. Yeah.
And the spices are so overlooked. It's like they're like garlic against this issue is very helpful.
Yeah, and been around forever, and people use it for everything. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, it's my grandma used to do it, but shove garlic up my nose is a real thing, dude. So, well, because again, people take the whole, they take the whole Paul Saladino, anti-nutrients shit to heart, right? And they're like, don't use any of that stuff. It's all poisonous, and you shouldn't be using it. And even though people have been using it for God knows how long, right?
Yeah, for years when I was like vegan or raw vegan, every every breakfast was apples and cinnamon, and I would do apples and almond butter, unfortunately. But I think the cinnamon was my saving grace because I'd buy high quality cinnamon and cut up like 5 apples and have that.
Ceylon or what kind of cinnamon? What's the good stuff?
It was Ceylon, yeah,
Hmm
and
hmm
I didn't. I wasn't at the level of ordering it online. I think at some point I got higher grade because usually the spices you buy at the grocery store are not the best. You know, they're kind of cut. Even wild like oregano, they'll cut it with like grass. You know, because
Yeah.
it kind of looks the same.
Yeah, there's you ever been out Catalina Island out here in California?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know wild oregano grows there and it's so pungent.
Oh,
Yeah, it's super like it hits you and it's like a different thing, dude. Way different
wow.
than what yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
brought
did
some
my
back with me.
wow. Yeah, I did my advanced open water scuba training there.
Oh, very
Went
cool.
down to like 90 feet at Catalina and
Oh, that's
uh,
awesome. I didn't know you were into that. That's awesome, bro.
yeah, I used to clean tanks. I worked at a scuba shop, and when I was right when I got down to 90 feet, like the deepest I've ever been, this guy kicks his fin and hits my mask off
Oh
and my
no.
regulator at the same time. So my mask flies off and my regulator out of
Oh
my mouth.
Jesus, dude.
I'm like, okay, I'm at 90 feet. If I freak out, I'm gonna die. So I just calmly grab my regulator first, put it in, then grab my mask and put it back on my
Did the
face.
guy notice that he kicked you? Or he didn't even turn around or notice.
Didn't
No.
even notice. Yeah.
Oh man. Because that stuff was fun, but it can be dangerous, man. It can be real dangerous.
It's all about staying calm. I mean, just in any dangerous situation,
Yeah.
rock climbing or whatever, you just don't want to freak out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, methylene blue is another one. Now there's like a million companies selling it, and a lot of companies sell the methylene blue tinctures, but that also kills convid, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
C.
Whatever you want to call it, brother.
And I like just blue. I mean, Troscriptions, they make these little trochees, they call them little lozenges. And
Oh, so
it's
it's
like,
not even a dropper. You just put a little lozenge in your mouth.
and that's why I prefer it. Yeah, it's a little more fun and to take, and it's like around $30 for 16 doses, and each dose is like 4 milligrams.
Okay.
I've never taken, I think, more than 8 in a day, but they have like a speedball version, which is like nicotine, caffeine, CBD, and methylene blue.
Oh, dude, that's too much. I don't know if I'd fuck around with
So-
that. I'd be scared. That's
then
like everything, man.
I mean, yeah, and then they have just blue, which is just the methylene blue, which I prefer. And then some bitter blockers and
How
stuff.
often do you
'Cause
take methylene blue? Because it's getting pretty popular. It's starting to be a lot more. I'm even seeing the biohackers being all over it now. Taking pictures like selfies with their like blue tongue, like hey.
On average, honestly, lately it's been like 2 to 3 times a week. I should be more on it to take it daily. I definitely do feel a boost. Like before this podcast, I usually do an espresso shot and I'll take like a gram of my Shilajit tablets, 1,000 milligrams. Usually take some magnesium. I took 1,000 milligrams of niacinamide. Yeah, I learned the hard way. If I take 3,000 milligrams of niacinamide, especially with this heat, I start profusely sweating. Like it's not like a flush like niacin, but 3 grams of niacinamide really increases my body temperature and my metabolism, like every time.
Interesting. And what
Yeah.
are the benefits of niacinamide? It's also being really popular now.
It increases NAD, which is a trending thing in the biohacking community.
Yeah.
Called
What are your thoughts on those? Sorry to interrupt you. What are your thoughts on the
Yep.
IVs then? Because just to cut right through it, because a lot of people just do the IV pushes of NAD and then they feel like they're gonna throw up and feel nauseous.
I think that's a little harsh. Yeah, I think it's very painful sometimes for a lot of people, and it's very invasive. I mean, I saw with being into the Bulletproof conference and stuff, being in that community for years, I saw the rise of like IV vitamins, like glutathione, vitamin C push, vitamin D, the whole thing, and all the stuff I speak out against. Like I'm not even for oral consumption of ascorbic acid or vitamin D. And here's these people injecting it, or glutathione. I don't think it's necessary. People are like injecting it straight into their veins. Mm-hmm. You know, I messed with NR for a while, nicotinamide riboside. It's a patented substance. I think True Niagen sells it. Mm-hmm. Pretty expensive, and they market it in that it could increase your lifespan and increase basically the function of your entire body through increasing NAD levels, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, which is pretty much the gears that your metabolism works with. There's like the NAD to NADH ratio, and it has to do with energy production and aging. And as we age, that ratio goes off. And as we get sick, that ratio goes off. I used to take NAD lozenges, which were really expensive.
Yeah.
Like $5 a lozenge or something.
They also say that they don't work because they get killed by your stomach acid, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Yeah. Well, I mean, niacinamide seems like a better option, right? Because it's doing the same thing, and it's absorbed pretty well if you get the good brand, one of the good brands. I don't know, man. It's almost like these biohacker motherfuckers. They're trying to make everything like exclusive, you know. So you can't, you know, because you can't give yourself an IV, right? So you got to go to them or the place that they recommend. And you got to get it there, and then it's like, oh man. So they're hard to listen to. Them. You got to be very careful with those guys.
Yeah. I think the niacinamide shines largely for people that have, like me, like I was raised on soy and vegetable oils, like tons of it. And then after I got off that, I was on nuts because I was raw vegan. So I was like sprouting my nuts and seeds, and eating like nut butters. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I went to algae oil and was doing shots and was taking like 3+ grams of algae oil a day. So I just got loaded up with omega-3s and DHA. And so niacinamide and vitamin E help to balance that. And whenever I see anyone with skin issues, chronic skin issues, which are really frustrating because people will go carnivore and say their skin improves, but it's just like a Band-Aid. Like to get to the root, I think you have to get to the PUFA problem, and the vitamin E takes care of that. The niacinamide helps lower free fatty acids.
Yeah, like you said, I know a lot of people that have skin issues, or I at least maybe follow some and pay attention. Yeah, just like you said, it seems like they bounce from like carnivore to vegan to, I don't know, macrobiotic, back to They just kind of go in between 3 or 4 diets, and then they kind of make these assumptions that it's that, and it's because I've seen a girl improve her skin being carnivore, but I've also seen her improve it being vegan, and so it's like, right? Because you want to make the conclusion, what is it? And it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's some other issue or something else is happening there.
I think many people, not all, but maybe most, only want results, even if they're short term, and they don't care whether they're short term or long term. Mm-hmm. As long as their problem goes away soon, that's then the means are worth it. And for me, what I try to educate on is like, no, long term. You know, it's like this whole depletion of my thing of like PUFA and iron. It's like you're not going to do it in a day. It's like a long term thing. You'll see incremental improvements in your health over the years.
You're living, right? It's a life game. Like you can't get, so might as well treat it that way, because there's no other way, right? Unless if you're planning on living for a year and then that's it. Like no, so.
I used to teach kids in an after school program, like kids where their parents got divorced or whatever, and I was like a PE teacher, and the coach I worked with had all these like fun sayings he would like tell the kids. He would always say, "It's a marathon, not a sprint," and that stuck with me.
But it's true. That's like with everything like that. That's why you shouldn't even be. I don't think it's even a good thing to be a fan of things. Oh, look, it cleared me up, or it did that like that, and it's like, well, maybe it cleared you up, or maybe it took your pain from your knee to your hip, right? And it's like, so yeah, I'm all about taking it easy, not going too fast. Paying attention. I just think so many people are just not paying attention to, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think that's with supplements, especially. I feel like I'm kind of like a canary in the coal mine. Like most supplements I take, I feel And I know with a lot of people, they'll take like my supplements. They'll be like, I didn't feel anything. I'm like, well, you could stop it if you don't feel anything. You know, I'm not forcing you to keep taking it. But that's kind of the thing with NAD. Like whenever I took NR or NAD, I never ever felt it. But with niacinamide, I mean, like I told you, I heat up. So I'm like, okay, obviously something's happening here.
Yeah. We talked about that with like Kyle Mamudis, you know, on my podcast before, where it's like caffeine, you feel it, right? Right, like you said, ascorbic acid or whatever, some zinc, I don't know. You don't really feel it, right? Sure, you could get it measured, I guess, but then I don't know, what are they measuring? How are they measuring? So, listen, you brought up the $1 million question, Matt. Vitamin D, you know, you brought up supplements. Let's talk about it. Everybody's hating on you for not being into vitamin D because so many people are. Because again, because obviously people have figured out their health issues and have figured out why they're sick. And it's simply because they haven't taken enough vitamin D from thorn supplements. That's why. So anyway, but you know, you've had a chat, you know, and we've talked about it with you before, but you know, what are your thoughts on vitamin D currently? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I connected with Jim Stevenson Jr. on Facebook. He runs the group, or is participating largely in the group Psychosteroid Hormone D, and he is largely influenced by a PhD named Trevor Marshall, which runs the Autoimmunity Research Foundation. So he's really big into autoimmune disease and getting to the root cause of it. And I guess he uses this substance called Benicar with large success with his patients. And he said it works by activating VDR, like the vitamin D receptor. And this is where the debate happens because, you know, in the repeat or metabolic community, which people would say I'm a part of, you know, I take what's good from my mentors and I leave what I don't.
I feel like it's almost vitamin D is almost, especially with the last year, I almost feel like now it's kind of part of the mainstream health community too. You know what I mean? It's not only a niche thing anymore, even though it's a thing that, you know, us that have been around the game for a long time, we've talked about it, you know, 15 years ago, right?
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at the fat-soluble vitamins, which I'm fascinated with, you know, there's a lot of people focusing on retinol, either for good or bad, saying, oh, you can get vitamin A toxicity, or everyone's retinol deficient. You know, there's like two camps, and then there's E and K, which I think are largely deficient, and especially in sick people. But D is not a vitamin; it's a hormone. It's a psychosteroid hormone, and our body makes it. And it's funny because we're hyper focused on like 2 or 3 molecules. It's D3, which is the vitamin D supplement. And then they say you're low in 25D. That's the one they measure. And then there's this one that's less talked about. You'll rarely hear this, especially in the mainstream, is 125D. That's the third one. But we're only 3 molecules deep when there's much more. There's so many different D. I mean, we're familiar with D2. There's pre-D3. There's L3 called lumisterol. There's so many things that your body can make. Whereas if you just take D3, you're forcing it a certain direction. Whereas if you get it from light or from food, then your body can go whichever direction it wants and make like supersterol, tachysterol, all these different compounds.
Now, where could you get vitamin D from food?
Dairy is an excellent source. It's funny, Adam Bertram, he always says almost every show, just put your food in the sunlight and it'll make vitamin D. Like any food, like put your spaghetti in the sun and it'll make vitamin D.
Well, I mean, hey, there used to be an old Russian spiritual teacher. His name escapes me right now, but he used to make salads and put them out in the sun. It was like a really popular thing. To this day, I'm sure there's some people that are still doing that. It's kind of our, I don't know, Deepak Chopra kind of guy, I guess. So I've heard that before. Yeah. Yeah.
There's probably something I mean, I could see that, especially with dairy and milk and cheese. You know, if you put that in the sun, that makes sense. But also fish fish is a good source of it. Salmon, trout, whatever you like, halibut. But because people freak out being in a northern latitude, anywhere away from the equator, they'll say, what if I don't have sun for the winter? And it's like, do you know how long your liver can store vitamin D? And the pro vitamin D camp would be like, well, if you're sick, your requirements, you burn through it faster and all that.
Right.
And I think the story's a little more complex than that. Like, one thing that took me a while to get is that 25D is often called storage D, and 125, the next conversion down, is called active D. And in sick people, active D is really high. So it's even though it's active D, it's not like it's better. It's more complex than that. You can have sick people could have low D3 and high active D. It's called 125D. And usually those people with high active D are dealing with a chronic infection like Epstein-Barr or Lyme or mold or whatever it is. And the solution is not to take more D3, because one person in the vitamin D group was saying like the active D is like the bread and the 25D is like the flour. If you take more flour and you already have too much bread, you're just going to keep making more bread, and the bread's going to fill up different rooms of the house, and it's just going to start overflowing. I thought that was an easy to understand analogy. So it's not like more the better. Everything's in ranges, right? Yeah. And you can't have something too high. And so people that are supplementing, especially insane levels of D3, Trevor Marshall says anything over even like 2,000 IUs is too high. And here we have people recommending 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 IUs a day.
Especially in like the naturopathic kind of places, doctors, they recommend even more than that, dude. But to be honest, have you talked to or heard anybody having like a real toxicity issue from supplementing too much vitamin D and then maybe stopping and feeling better?
In the group, there's a lot of anecdotal stories of that, like Stephanie Jansky. I think she's a prominent member in that group. She shared her story of stopping D, and that was like the source of her issues. I think after talking with like Georgie and Danny, and they're very pro D, like Ray. Yeah. If someone thinks they need it, and there might be like a placebo belief thing in play there with thinking it's necessary to supplement it, then I think topical, like even Now Foods makes a topical D3 cream. Yeah. And it has retinol palmitate, unfortunately. It does have vitamin E with it, but it's D3 and it has like 1,000 IUs in a dose. I think topical is a lot safer than oral D3 if you think you need it. And there are some like sunscreens that I think use D3 that you could apply topically. But it's one of those things I just don't think it's necessary. I think we're designed to get through the winter without supplementing. Whether you believe in evolution, I don't think we evolved with vitamin D supplements.
Well, yeah, either way, right? Yeah, grandma wasn't supplementing thorn supplements, right? Yeah. Yeah. And then as far as vitamin A, what are your thoughts on vitamin A? Because, if we're talking about like store-bought milk, that's not whole. There's your vitamin D3 and vitamin A, right? They're both in there.
Yeah, I like the idea. I think Kate Deering said this. Like if you need high quality milk, then you could buy like raw milk, and then you could skim it yourself. Or I think people should just drink milk whole. I think it's fine how it is. But some people want low fat or skim the fat off. Try to get non-fortified. There is some research to show that retinol palmitate increases gut infections. So it actually feed pathogenic bacteria in the gut. Again, context, there's probably a place, to use it. Yeah. But I think there's safer things to use.
But you don't think we should be supplementing with extra vitamin A?
I think it should all come from food. Butter is a good source of vitamin A if it's high quality butter. Milk, beef liver, or elk liver, deer liver, any liver, really, organ meats in general, good source of vitamin A. Yeah, that's one I would get from whole food. The only ones I think that I would supplement are really E and K.
Yeah.
Because those are hard to get in large amounts, and especially to offset how we've been living for decades.
And it kind of makes sense, like you said, yeah, because vitamin A is pretty common everywhere, right? But vitamin K and E especially, it's like what's it found in normal foods? Like what, fortified oils, basically? I mean, where's vitamin E found? Nothing, nowhere, right?
Yeah, wherever you have PUFAs. So when you eat your salmon, you're going to get your vitamin E.
Yeah.
But it's going to neutralize those PUFAs and help balance it. And then your nuts and seeds, if you still eat those. Mm-hmm. Even in eggs, there's some PUFA in eggs. There's vitamin E in eggs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then vitamin K, it's like only cheese. I mean, MK4, you're getting in pretty much all animal foods, but MK7, metaquinone 7, that does everything MK4 does and more. It actually has
so it's like liver and cheese. That's about it, right? Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of people are anti-liver. What are your thoughts on like liver pills and stuff? Do you fuck around with those?
Yeah, I actually took some this morning.
Hey.
I think it's pretty close to the real thing. I mean, there's something obviously of the real thing. It's water rich, it's hydrated. There's something with the water. Mm-hmm. It works with the nutrients, and it's fresher. But I think freeze dried or desiccated, either one, it does preserve a lot of the nutrients long term. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are doing their iron panels now and looking at like their copper, their ceruloplasmin, their transferrin, their ferritin, their iron saturation, and seeing all their numbers trend for the better with just taking liver pills. Like I wasn't raised eating liver and onions, I was raised eating, yeah, right.
Have you done your iron panel? Is it a full Monty they call it or whatever? Yeah.
Only once. Yeah, I'm overdue. I wish I could just do it at home and send it in. I would do it like every 3 months if that was the case. Mm-hmm. But it's like an hour and a half away or so to do it. And I've just been afraid. I don't want them to like inject me with anything, like strap me down and have you got your
test? You got to get your test. Have you been tested? Oh man, that's a whole fucking Jesus. I really can't wait for this to be over. Though I don't know, Matt. I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever be out of it now. I'm starting to believe it or not, when this whole thing started, I was like, nah, people are going to get tired of that. And no, they're not tired of it yet. Oh my God. I don't know, man.
I'm not keeping track, but I keep hearing like in different countries and even in the US, they're like ramping it up again. Like it starts going down, then it ramps up and it's down.
I don't know, Matt. I don't know, dude. I'm starting to get a little scared. Maybe I'll be out there in Idaho soon.
Yeah, well, I'm looking to sell my old house, and so hopefully I'm not past. I think people are still freaking out and wanting to bail out of California, so to Idaho.
It's happening every day. Lots of people, dude. Lots of people are going.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. And I mean, what about these people that moved from this house, though? Where do they go? Somewhere even deeper into the woods, or what?
That's a good question, actually. I didn't find out. It's funny. They actually didn't need the money, so they like donated this to like museums or something.
Wow.
What I think.
Wow. They got some fucking money. Good for them.
Yeah.
So, What were you saying?
But yeah, most people up here are not very affluent. I think the people that are kind of live, off the main drag, kind of in the woods. And yeah, I feel really, really lucky to be out here because we're disconnected but connected. We're disconnected from the wrong things. We're connected to the right things. Mm-hmm. And we don't watch the news. Lately we've been watching that series I Shouldn't Be Alive, and there's this good one called Human Prey, like animal attacks.
Haven't seen it. You've been like people attacked by. Did you see the fucking guy what was running away from the mountain lion? Did you see that one? He was recording it. Like the mountain lion was charging at him, and he's like trying to walk away from him. He's like, "Get the fuck away from me!"
Yeah, it was putting its paws up really high in the air and like sprinting out of you.
Jesus, dude. What's the most dangerous thing up there by you? What is it? What's up in Idaho?
We're in grizzly. Like grizzlies will eventually come right up to the house, I think.
Dude, they'll fucking eat your ass. For those vegan people, like that haven't been around bears, they should. I feel like all of them should take a vacation in like up there or in
Yosemite.
Siberia. Well, yeah, dude. I mean, in Siberia, people die every year because of bears. It's not like a random thing. It's like, or like
Right.
a rare. It's like every year there's like a few people that die because they got eaten by a fucking bear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I like watching those shows. I mean, one, they're entertaining and get the adrenaline going. It's fun to hear the stories of different, even like alligator attacks and like Florida, like at golf courses and stuff. But the grizzly attacks are fascinating to me because they're pretty, like, most of the accounts, people will say like they felt the bear like bite their head and they hear like a crunch of their skull going in, and they still make it and they're like normal after. It's like, usually they poke the eye of the bear, and that usually, but they're pretty vicious. Like if they want to take you out, they'll just keep going.
It's hard and they're fast, and it's not like that. What was that, Revenant, when like the bear kind of like he attacks him, but it's like kind of like a slow run. No, dude, they're fast as fuck. They're fast as fuck. Like if they want to get to you, they're getting to you. Oh no, I was thinking about a different movie, The Edge. You ever seen that movie with Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin?
Called The Edge.
Yeah, it's not that good of a movie, but it's just, if there's a bear attack there, it's I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years old. But yeah, the bear's like kind of like running after him, and like Anthony Hopkins, this old man, is like running away from it. It's like, dude, do you know what a real bear would do? This is like I said, it's pretty old, so maybe these days they wouldn't be that dumb to make that movie.
I think they could run like 30, 35 miles an hour. Dude, it's like,
they're fast. I mean, it's not for long. You could probably outrun them if you can somehow outrun them, but if they want to get to you...
Yeah, one good trick is with like moose. Like we have a lot of moose around here, and they could be more aggressive than bears, and they just trample you. And if anyone ever encounters a moose, if they remember this from this episode, you can juke out a moose with a big tree, because they're not quick to go around trees. So if you ever encounter a moose close range and they're charging you, find a big tree and kind of juke it out.
They're massive and scary. The fucking noises they make and shit. Dude, scary things.
Yeah, we have everything around here. We have cougars, grizzlies. We have black bears, deer, which even they could be aggressive. So yeah, whenever we go out in the forest, we're always packing, and I'm still looking for. You
got to be checking in with each other too. Like, don't go alone without wifey out there, man. Jesus.
Yeah, I really like shotguns. They're fun. I just need to get a sling for mine to carry it around my body. But
you ever see that movie? Here's a good documentary you might enjoy. It's called Happy People by Werner Herzog. You ever see that one?
We watched that because of your recommendation.
Oh,
yeah,
you
that
did?
was
You didn't like it that much? I guess it wasn't that good.
It was pretty good.
It's
yeah,
all right. You didn't like it. Just admit it. Okay.
I like animal attacks better. No.
Well, yeah, you need something a little more intense. That one, it was like relaxing, right? Like out there, like fishing. But there's that story that he tells about his dog getting eaten, and then the bear eats the dog and then runs for him, and he point blank, bam, shoots him.
Yeah,
bears are scary.
There's a funny show called Animal Heroes, where they talk about like cats and dogs saving people from like animal attacks, or like fire breaks out.
That's
but
cool.
Yeah, I think it's good I've been trying to take breaks since moving, just for the stress of moving. It's just good to kind of unwind, watch a movie, watch something that's not related to health.
Oh yeah, because you can get. Oh man, I'm with you, bro. That's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. A little bit of people. Because I mean, if you think about the whole health sphere, right? It's all diet related, right? It's all diet. You go to whatever carnivores accounts talking about carnivore stuff, vegan accounts talking about vegan stuff, and they're not really talking about anything else, besides the food that they're putting in their mouth. And it's like, I mean, it's important, but life is really complex, and there's a lot of things happening. But I wanted to ask you a couple of questions that were sent in. We talked about vitamin A and D. That was a big one, because you're hated on for that one for sure. But I think we made it clear. Another question will be like a question about men endocrine health. I think he's trying to ask you is, Matt, how do you get these nuts to be working again?
You know what's funny? I made because I put out 4 private videos a month on my YouTube, like Mito Life Academy. It's like a YouTube subscription. I think it's pretty affordable. It's like from 10 to 25 bucks a month. And
Cool.
I make like a video on sugared milk or beekeeping and different things, in-depth videos. And I created a video last year called the Grow Pair Protocol. Just on a whim, I made this new little protocol, and with dosing different things and kind of the supplements that I would take and the dosages I would take. I still need to make that into a blog post, but I would go back and look at that video. I think it was like an intermediate one. Elk Velvet Antler is on that list. I think that's an amazing supplement. You know, deer antler has been trending for years. People, you know, do the tinctures, and those are really expensive.
Daniel Vitalis, he was always big on them, from what I remember. I don't know if he still sells it or anything, but he was pretty. I remember him being one of the guys, the OGs.
He does still, yeah. And there's like platinum, silver, and gold. I think the gold one's like $300-$400 a bottle. And it gets really crazy.
What's the difference, though? What do you mean? So you're saying you're selling me a shadier version of it? Like, what do you mean? You can't do that. You gotta have the. Oh, that's fucked up.
Yeah, I think it's like more concentrated. I really feel the powdered one. So I only know of one good company called Vigor up in Canada. They source from it's up in Saskatchewan, but he sources from different elk farms, and he just powders in the velvet stage the antler, and it's just powdered antler in capsules. I'll usually take 4 at a time. You know, they say 1 capsule is a serving size, so it's like 1,400 milligrams, I think. Okay. 1,600, something like that. And yeah, it's a source of copper, it's a source of minerals, collagen, you know, joint support. But I think the minerals are really what you need for endocrine support, whether you're a male or a female. Mm-hmm. So I really like that one. Pine pollen is amazing. You could try the powder, and some people say it doesn't work, like the stomach acid denatures it or whatever. Mm-hmm. But every time I've taken a tablespoon of the powder, just don't breathe because you'll choke, and it's really not a pleasant experience because it's just really powdery. So put a very carefully mixed water or mix your saliva. I put it in pancakes. Sometimes I take it straight, or I'll do the pine pollen tincture and just hold it in my mouth for like 90 seconds, swish it around, and that might be better absorbed. Those are some good ones. Aromatase inhibitors, like I mentioned earlier, nettle root, even vitamin E helps countering estrogen, helping with that. You know, sunlight on the balls is a big trending thing right now. Like with carnivores, it's like, you know, eat liver, sun your balls, you know, eat steak. It's like that's the prescription.
That's how you be a man. Yeah. Which is funny though, because like the shittiest I've ever felt was like when I was like 0 carb and just eating meat and organs. It's just, you feel good for those few days that you still have some glycogen running around, but then, oh boy, right? And like the best I feel is like when I eat like, you know, lots of carbs and ice cream and stuff like that. And then some meat, of course, but it's funny, right? That it became a thing like that.
Yeah. So whether it's nude sunbathing is real. I mean, I've done it. I think red light's a little more convenient because you don't get arrested if you're in a city and do it after your shower, you know. It's just, the dose is really small, like 5 to 10 minutes is all, once or twice a day. So it's really easy to do after your shower or whatever.
Okay.
I throw on a podcast when I do it after I shower, and 5 or 10 minutes, just stand there and do neck stretches or whatever. And yeah, I think those are some tips there. Maybe cigars. I mean, tobacco is a really great aromatase inhibitor, and I think hormonal.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Got another one for you. Interesting. Why do some people get lipofuscin and others don't that are on similar-ish diets? What do you think about that? I
think the variance in ultraviolet light exposure. So, some people, like where I used to live in North County, San Diego, it was like an Asian community there, and they would walk around with umbrellas, to protect against the sun. It's an Asian culture that's they're really aware of.
I see that here. I live by like a little kind of Japanese area. I see that every day here. It's funny, right? They're like, they're not pro sun, right? They're hiding under it outside. Isn't that funny?
I think that's a little extreme, but I think you can get too much, and it's just finding that sweet spot. And so, yeah, I think to answer that question, some people just never get sun, and if you're full of PUFAs and you're eating lots of polyunsaturated fatty acids, and they're staying indoors, then they're pretty protected. Although blue light from like indoor lighting, like everyone uses at their workplace or their office or their home, that will actually have an effect. And even if those people that you can't see lipofuscin on their skin, they could still have it internally. And so everyone always asks me, like, what's the test to measure it? There is one. I mean, if I ever find one that's affordable and reliable, I'll share it. But so far, it's one of those things where you just take off your clothes and you could see it. And usually you don't have to take off your clothes because it's on the forehead, the forearms, the hands. Yeah. You know, it's the places that are exposed to light.
Yeah. And like you said throughout the podcast, it's kind of also like probably where they're at, what's their makeup, right? Just having a different skin. Maybe like you said, maybe they have the same amount, but it's just their skin is a different type or whatever.
Well, even Emma on the recent show on my podcast, she had a good point. She said that your mother can hand down estrogen dominance to you, which I never like even thought of because, you know, we inherit our mitochondrial DNA from our mother, and you know, depending on her mineral status, that's the foundation that we get and where we're operating from. And so there's a huge estrogen component to lipofuscin, and I think some people are born with excess estrogen, and right out the gate, that predisposes them.
It starts out earlier. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it's the birth control pills because that's a huge source of iron and estrogen.
Yeah, that's the real pandemic. Yeah, man. Oh man, especially in these big cities, it's like you can't find anybody that's not on them. Seriously.
Yeah, and have you heard it even changes like the pheromones and sexual attraction and stuff?
The wet T-shirt studies. Yeah, old school shit. Yeah, man. You know, yeah. I mean, you don't really. Do you really? Sometimes I'm almost like, do you really need a study? Do you really want me to show you a study? Like, does it? Like, how many women? I know plenty of women that are now married, maybe even have kids now, but that said that they were on birth control for years and then they couldn't get pregnant for about 5 years until their body finally cleared that shit out, right? It's just every day you hear that. So, like, how many do you really need to see a PubMed study? Like, it's just out there. Just talk to people. I mean, the stuff that they're going through. Sometimes just people don't connect it, obviously, right? But plenty of women I know have had infertility problems. Plenty of women have had period problems, all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think mainstream people or even mainstream natural health people kind of discount anecdotes because they'll say, you'll listen to your anecdotal story and they'll say, well, I've also heard this one, which is the opposite of what you just told me. So they kind of cancel each other out is their kind of conclusion. And I'm like,
I don't know if it's like that, man. I'm not saying that other story is bullshit, right? Like, I'm not saying you can get away with it. I do tend to think that, it's probably like hey, maybe their parents were have tremendous health, right? Maybe it's like those guys that I know that, don't lift weights or lift some weights here and there and eat McDonald's and have giant fucking puffy muscles. It's a real thing. You know, I've talked to I know many people in my field that know those people. That's a real thing. But they have that because their dad was a quarterback for the fucking 49ers and whatever, so it's like it's already built into them. Like you said, they're right out of the gate, boom, they're predisposed to being perfect, or whatever in some sort of direction. And same thing with the, estrogen stuff. I think like you said, some women maybe just come out there right away, have estrogen dominance, and it gets worse from there.
I think even, how we're born. Years ago, I saw like the Business of Being Born, I think, documentary. Talking about like hospital births and
old school, right? Yeah, I think I sort of remember that.
It was like a evil Netflix.
Yeah.
The pedos and I think there's something to that. Like even from like I think home births in like the pool, is the way to go, and with a doula and the whole thing, because I think that's you know, you don't have the artificial light beating down. You don't have like the lab coats and like
Oh, dude,
injections.
I mean, it's like the most stressful environment ever, right? It's like fucking crazy, right? Well, you know what they do is that's why they get you high, dude. I think that's part of the reason that it's just, like, you know, because you're so high, you just start paying attention to that stuff because, you know, they're on so many drugs. But I
Yeah,
mean,
the epidural, right? Yeah.
yeah, dude, they're high as fuck. So it's like whatever, but still, it's just like the most stressful environment ever, right? And that's where you're born. Yeah, man, it freaks me out, that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's. I want to have children someday. I don't know when, but someday we want to have kids, and I think that's one of the most exciting parts about it to me. I mean, I know there's going to be sleepless nights, and it's like another job, and it's really stressful, and it's costly, and all this stuff. But I think it's worth it to create like a superhuman because coming from the teaching industry for 4 years plus, I just saw the handicapped nature of children, you know, and I was working with ages 8 to 18 and they were all handicapped. And I was like, wow, they're like mental issues, emotional issues, psychological. And they're just out the gate, they're handicapped. And then they're drinking crappy water and breathing crappy air, eating crappy food. And they just have no chance. And so
And teenagers are starting to smoke weed because they have anxiety and they're depressed. As teenagers, right? It's like it's supposed to be a thing that happens later in life, right? That's like, okay, it's sad. Yeah, because I work with some kids too and stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, I think we need to have more of a movement of healthy adults that want to create like really healthy humans. And I don't know if I said on your podcast or another one, but I've only met like a handful, like less than 5 kids that were like, whoa, this kid's bright. They're aware, their brain's functioning. Like, I don't think it's just reducing GMOs and drinking filtered water. Like, there's a lot more going on here, you know, with this kid.
Well, like you said, but hey, dude, most people are fucking too busy, right? They got that work, they got to drive through traffic, they got to pay insurance, they got to do that, and then it's like 1 hour a day playtime. I see you for 1 hour a day. Like, even just moral, right? Ethics. Like, what can you instill in your kid that you see him for 1 hour a day and then you go to some shitty zoo on the weekend, right? Or whatever. And then, like, you know, and you're tired because you've been working all week. And, like, I get it. Like, there's no other option, right? But, yeah, I mean, the city life I also want to have kids one day, like you said. Not ready yet, but one day. But it's like, yeah, I mean, I could not imagine having a kid in a city. I mean, it sounds like the worst environment for a child, for a human, right? To just raise a person. It's just like, why would you ever want to raise a person here? Like, it sounds fucking crazy, you know? It's going to make them crazy.
Yeah, I was very fortunate where I like half my childhood memories are in my backyard, and we had like a 2-level backyard. We had like an above ground pool and set up a badminton net, and we had like super soaker fights in the neighborhood, and we had like lemon fights where we'd pick lemons and chuck them as hard as we could at each other, you know?
Yeah, and it's not like you grew up on a farm, right? But that's like a way better environment than like, oh, we live on the 53rd floor of a story building, right, in the middle of Manhattan, and they're like, oh my God, that sounds awful, right? You can't go outside. Oh, we order Uber Eats every day. Pizza is for dinner, right? Like, that's terrible, dude. It sounds horrible.
Yeah, outdoors is like on the little patio deck thing. I used to see that in people's apartments.
Yeah, and it's all these, and then like they take their like trips to the nature like once or twice a year, right? That's what I also like. It's like bothers me. Yeah, people go into these like when people are like, oh, I love hiking, and like they go to like some silly hike in the middle of the city, and it's like. Bitch, that's not hiking. That's just like, you're just going up a hill, It's like, I'm talking about like, let's go camping out in the woods in the middle of nowhere, That's a different thing. It's a different experience.
One of my friends, Robert Kassar, in on the Big Island in Hawaii, he makes hilarious videos, and we have our disagreements, but he's really fun to listen to.
How's he doing, man? I used to follow him when I was vegan also. He used to have those crazy abs, right? Yeah.
He's really into gematria now. He's like, it's all about numbers and everything's 33, Bill Gates is 33. And
isn't that movie with Jim Carrey? Have you seen that one? Where everything is 3? Is it the same one? Yeah. Okay.
Well, the whole idea is like, there's like calculators where you can put in words and it translates it to numbers. And supposedly the whole English language, he said like humanities 33. And it's like, basically the idea is that English is like a slave language and that like our words are like coded with numbers that keep us in a prison energetic. There's some, I don't know how far it goes, but
I'm sure it goes deeper than that too, man. That's interesting, man. All right. So, but he's not vegan anymore though, right?
He's not. Yeah. But yeah, I forgot. Why did I bring him up?
I'm sorry, brother.
That's okay. Oh yeah. He was saying the city is like Satan's playground. And I was like, that's a good way to put it. Like,
I mean, you know, Hawaii would be a great spot. Although Hawaii has its minuses too, because it's such a, you know, they're trying to make it more of a, you know, urban environment kind of thing. But yeah,
and there's all the tribal spiritual namasteers over there.
Yeah,
it's like the
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That's that entire. Yeah, that's like all of Maui. Yeah, man. Well, brother,
all the fruitarians.
Oh, the fruitarians. That's really big. Is that one that changed her eyes? Is she still out there? Do you know what I'm talking about? The one that's like raw vegan, Christina, I think. Is it Christina?
Oh,
she said her eyes changed when she went on the vegan
fully
diet.
raw Christina.
Oh, yeah, fully raw Christina. That's it. Yeah.
I think it was a year or two ago when I saw her do a MasterCard sponsored ad. I was like, okay, that's it.
She made a lot of money, that chick. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to fruit. I mean, I think that's like the biggest downside to being up here is like we only have berries, and unless we grow fruit in a greenhouse, then we have to get it from Mexico. So that's something that, you know, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Hawaii, Mexico.
Go. Let me know when. I'll be there, bro. Let me know when. Costa Rica, I heard, is pretty awesome. Costa Rica. But it does attract the fruitarians. But I'm okay. I mean, if they're okay with me eating some steak around them every once in a while, like I'm okay to hang out with them. I don't mind. There was another what was that guy? They had like 7 children. He was like this German guy, blonde.
Oh yeah, Sundance.
Yeah,
not Sundance. Something like dance.
Yeah, Sundance. Sundance. I think it's the Sundance family, but his name was like. He would always say, this is your something.
Ka.
Yeah, was that
it?
Yeah, Ka Sundance. I love it that we both know that shit. Whatever happened to him? I haven't looked at his stuff in a long time.
I think he's Austrian. I have some Austrian in me.
I'm so sorry. No, but he's a German speaker for sure. Like some sort of German. I remember they were out there for a long time. They had like their own homestead there going on.
He's one of those guys that made bank from YouTube, like the ads and stuff. Like, I think if you got into the niche of raw foods, you know, like the Matt Monarch, the Ka, the Durian Rider, like they made like thousands and thousands and maybe millions, I don't know, on YouTube ads.
At the right time, at the right place, kind of, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's funny how a lot of them now are like changing their diet significantly. I don't know how Durian Rider's doing, but I know Matt Monarch's like, he was eating like cream of wheat and some interesting things.
No, Durian is, I mean, you can tell by his personality. I mean, he got vegan tattooed on his arms, you know, so that's like, that ain't changing, dude. He
ride or die.
Yeah, literally. He's like Moby. You ever see Moby's tattoos on You ever see those? Oh my God, that guy. He has like go vegan on his neck and on his whole arms for the animals. Oh man, this guy. I don't know. God bless him. I wish him nothing but health. I mean, I love a lot of his music, so, you know, so.
I mean, I wish it was possible. I wish it was for years and maybe, you know, in another dimension or something. But just in this one, it's like life eats life, and that's just a part of it. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. You know, because I'm with you on that, dude. Honestly, I really am. It's not that I'm making fun of it, because you and I have both tried being vegan and vegetarian. I mean, I was vegetarian for a year, and then I went full vegan, and then I really felt like shit, and then that got me to switch back, kind of. But I don't know, man. I mean. Look, because I do have like my only uncle. He's a butcher in Ukraine. All right, that's what he does. He has his own shop and everything. And he's getting older, and every time I chat with him, you know, he's like, "Ah, man." Every time I'm getting older every year. It's hard to look a bull in the eyes and then hit him in the head and kill him and eat him. And I get him. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. You know, it's like, because I get you. I know he's not coming from it from a fruitarian, let's make YouTube kind of money, but he's just thinking about it, you know, like there is something spiritually, I don't know, I don't want to say wrong, but I don't know, you know, just spiritually a little hurtful, I guess, to be doing that.
Yeah, I recently saw one of the Augenist people. It's fun to Svinge or something because he's really funny to watch his YouTube videos.
Oh,
And he
that
was
guy.
he was with a guy called like Milk Jar was his like handle, and they were like on this guy's chicken farm, and on film they like slaughtered a chicken, and then he was like collecting the blood in a syringe like in a jar, and he drank the blood like straight from the chicken as it was draining out. I'm like, is that like where we're coming to? Is that
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's got to be extreme, right? It can't be one way or the other. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Those guys are obviously they lost their fucking minds too. They're the same. They're on that same level. It's just a different side, right?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, and I've said it over and over. I almost say it every one of my little YouTube lives. And the CO2, carbon dioxide, euthanasia, this was implanted to me by one of my former mentors after the cigar.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, how would you like it if I this was outside of the cigar shop when we were talking by his car. He's like, how would you like it if I slit your throat or put a bolt through your head? He's like, a-hole, you know? And I'm like, that stuck with me because I'm like, wow, like what? This is like 2020. Like what? Like we're still doing like the knife or the gun or the bolt. It's like we haven't found anything better, and it turns out we have. It's called dry ice or CO2 or carbon dioxide, and it's the best way to put down an animal. And just somewhat sealed chamber, you know, just unregulated CO2 injection into the atmosphere in there. They just fall asleep. The nervous system turns off, and they die. And it doesn't affect the meat, like everyone's freaked out about. Yeah. I think even if it's not that way, there are better ways. There has to be. And it's like, why aren't we doing it? It's like, it's just a macho thing. It's an efficiency thing. It's a factory farm.
Yeah. I think it's all those things, like you said. Definitely the macho thing is just like, it's so fucking annoying to watch these dudes, like you said, like the carnivore dudes that are just like, eat steak, son your balls. I mean, God. It's just like they're so far behind. It's just like, all right, cool.
What's funny is they're on the Whole Foods kind of thing, right? It's like they're saying that, and they don't have a homestead. They're not trying to start a family. They're not actually doing it. They're just talking about it.
And they go to Irwan or Whole Foods to buy their steaks, and they've never. And that's what that's why I brought up my uncle. I was like, none of these guys. These guys would, they'd pussy out to fucking hit a bull in the head with a giant hammer. I mean, dude. I mean, it's rough. I mean, you're taking its life, and it's not pretty to look at, really. And a lot of these dudes, they just buy these fancy steaks, eat steaks on your balls, but like, they would never do it themselves, or maybe they would, but I don't think it would be as easy as they think it would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's harder to like raise an animal. Like we have goats, and we're not planning on eating them. Like you get meat goats, but I think it's kind of weird. Like I think we just like dairy goats and just building the herd.
Connection, right? You're making that connection. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you raise a cow, 10 years or I don't know how long before they slaughter it, that you have a connection with the animal. So I'd imagine it'd be harder. But with like, we have tons of deer out here, and I've had some, and it's delicious. And if you get the right shot, like with your 308 rifle or with your high-powered rifle, if you hit the right spot, it's an instant drop. Like they don't even take one step. It's just boom, they're down. And that I think is the most, because they don't even see what's coming.
Yeah, and they're also in their natural wild environment, right? And they don't give a fuck about you, and you don't give a fuck about them, in a way. Yeah, but definitely when you have a cow, I mean, my grandparents had chickens and the cow, and it becomes a pet, right? And then to kill your own pet is fucking rough, man. And so. Only those Sverige type of dudes can fucking just whatever, drink the blood. Like, oh, stop it. I just think it's a very low consciousness kind of level. I don't think they've worked up the way. Maybe they will eventually. But
I think it's like it's like just going to the extreme, right? It's like seeing the whole Czech tribal polyamory thing, and then just going Orthodox Christian, and like I'm not even going to be in the room alone with a woman, or on it's like going like
no fap. Yeah.
Yeah, every live is funny. Get asked about semen retention. Is that healthy? And I'm always like, no, it's not healthy. It's not natural.
What do you think? Yeah, it's just like, oh god, oh man. It was a good chat. Well, we'll end it on no fap, huh?
It's always fun, Leo. Yeah, I like how we cover a lot of ground, and yeah,
It's always a
kind
good
of like,
time. So what have you been working on? What you got coming out? You got anything coming out on your site? You got any products coming? What you been doing?
yeah, yeah. I'm always formulating new products, and uh, what's different with me is it's not for like, oh, what's trending? What can I make the most profit off of? Which is what a lot of supplement makers are doing. They're just trying to grow their line, because the more products you have in a product line, the more your average order. So the more money you make. That's not where, and we have a team of like 5. Like, it's a really small team with MitoLife, so it's really nice, and we all talk with each other on the phone often and stuff. And magnesium is something that I've been talking about for I don't know, 7-8 years. I have like old YouTube videos you can find of me in an RV on the fold-up bed talking about magnesium, and that's actually how I got out of the dispensary. Is I started making magnesium bicarbonate in my RV and magnesium oil spray, and I was selling these online, just like kind of under the table through PayPal without barely a website kind of thing. And I started making enough money where I could quit the dispensary and doing that. And then that led me to starting MitoLife and selling, unfortunately, DHA. and then that fell through and got caught up with the wrong crowd, had a nice business lesson, had a lawsuit, and then restarted MitoLife better than ever, and with a better perspective and a more grounded perspective, and with more guidance, kind of just with context and stuff. So all that said, each product has a purpose, and they all kind of fit with that CLF protocol. At least that's the goal, that it all helps with those 3 things: calcification, lipofuscin, and fibrosis. And magnesium, people struggle with like making the magnesium bicarbonate. They're just lazy. And even taking magnesium baths, that's a process. You have to.
Yeah.
So pills are really convenient, and you can get to a place where you're taking fistfuls of pills a day. And I tell people, kind of tune in. If you're underslept, like if I'm underslept, I like double or triple my magnesium intake. And that like brain fatigued feeling where like you need a nap, and that's all that'll fix it. Until you get to that nap, magnesium really gets you through. Like for parents that can't sleep, or just we all have nights where we can't sleep. Magnesium is such a brain relaxant. And so I'm working on a magnesium complex pill where
very cool.
It's like bisglycinate, malate, and taurate. So they're all amino acids. A mix
of all the chelate forms. Okay.
I think those are the best if we're talking about powdered forms. And then I'm also working on a niacinamide lozenge. So
there we go.
Just trying to diversify from pills. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Awesome.
And I already tried samples. So it's sucrose, because all the BS pills or the tablets and lozenges, it's all like monk fruit and stevia. And my formulator that's helping me make this, they're like, "Are you sure you want to use like sucrose?" I'm like, "Yes." It's like, I don't want any other sugar source,
Just give us the regular stuff, Matt. I like it. And people can find that stuff on mitolife.co.
Mitolife.co. Yeah, and that should be within the next month. And then I'm actually working on coming out with grounding sheets. Just very basic. There's nothing special.
Like for sleeping, for the bed?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's very cool, man. All right.
Yeah. I started doing that like 10 years ago when I was living with my parents, and it
finally
changed my life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I've done the Magnetico, thousands of dollars. And I think that could be beneficial for people with severe mercury toxicity and aluminum to sleep on magnets, but you can overdo it. So I'd recommend, if you're sleeping on a Magnetico, 2 or 3 years max. I started to get fatigued, and I went back to grounding, especially being out of the city. And my sleep really improved. My HRV, everything improved. So, yeah, sleeping grounded is a huge. There's a lot of context there, though. It's because if you're
and we've talked about it with you on my last podcast, I remember. But yeah,
right.
Man, awesome, brother. Yeah. And I'll link all that stuff up, and I'll link your Insta. You're not on Twitter, are you? You're not a Twitter guy.
No, yeah, I don't support was it Jack Dorsey? Or...
You don't want to get a nose ring? What do you mean, bro? Yeah, it's I have one, but it's a fucking dead space. I don't know. It's just like people who want to argue go on there. So I try to.
My dad's on there.
Well, maybe your dad likes arguing. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, right? It's true.
It seems like more of a political thing. Like
Oh yeah.
Trump
Yeah.
people
Oh
arguing.
God. Oh Jesus. Yeah. Let's not even bring it up. Well, awesome, brother. Thank you. I taken up so much of your time. Thank you so much, bro. It's been a pleasure. It's always a good time. And
Thanks, Lee.
I'll link everything up, my man.
It's always fun. Thanks so much.
Things you own end up owning you.